All right, welcome to the Gaming Lounge Podcast, episode 21. Once again, I'm your host, Sebastian, and I'm joined by Dory. How's everything going, Dory?
Great. It's someone's birthday today. They are turning 33. I don't know who it could be. Definitely not me.
Happy birthday, Dory.
Yeah.
So what are you doing special this weekend?
Well, we have the podcast, of course, so that's always fun. I told Seb to consider that my birthday present. And then I also have a D&D one-shot I do every year on my birthday. So I'm going to be doing that not long after the podcast is done. Tomorrow is All In. AEW is going to London, and they have 50,000 plus people at Wembley Stadium. But don't worry, everybody online tells me they're in the mud, so I guess they're going out of business right after that. And then, yeah, I'm gonna get some pizza. We're gonna get some subs for lunch to watch All In, and I'm gonna get some presents and stuff. But yeah, I'm excited. I got some money, so hopefully spend that on some video games. And summer camp is also finally done. So I spent my 33rd birthday just taking painkillers this morning because walking a lot hurts. It turns out over an entire summer. So yeah, but I'm super excited to be here. We're gonna talk about some really cool news about some games that are coming out, as well as some hands-on impressions. We'll talk about Black Myth. We'll talk about Monkey, and of course, Gamescom just happened.
Yes, so as Dory mentioned, it's going to be a very busy show because there's a lot of major news this time. The dry season's over, hopefully, and this is when all the games start coming out and all the big news events, starting with Gamescom, which is obviously the biggest in the world. So right off the bat, we're going to start with some Rockstar news, which is about Bully being rated for PS5, Xbox, and PC. So I'm going off Gamatsu.com. So the Taiwan Digital Gaming Rating Committee has rated Bully for PS5, Xbox Series, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PC. There is an Xbox 360 version that was also rated, but they noted that this might be an error because an existing 360 version of Bully Scholarship Edition already existed. I played that one. It is worth also noting that the PlayStation 2 emulated version of Bully is already available for PS4. I played it on PS4. And Bully Scholarship Edition is also already available for PC via Steam. So it is unclear what these news ratings may indicate. So it's already on these platforms as a Scholarship Edition. So is this like a remaster or a remake? Most likely a remaster. And then they did an update saying Bully will be available to download for GTA Plus members starting August 20th, which was Tuesday of this week. These new ratings are likely connected. So Bully is a good game. It's one of the best Rockstar games. I guess it's underrated at this point because I don't really hear about it anymore. But it's very well known among like people my age that grew up in the PS2 era. I don't know. I mean, the main character is more like he stands up to the bullies. I mean, he can do bully. If I remember correctly, he can do things that are not good. But overall, I think he usually stands up to the bullies and stuff like that. But there are aspects of this game that probably don't age well. So I'm curious how that reaction would be if people play it today. It's not like I don't remember being like obviously like really offensive or anything. I just remember it being like I remember people criticizing the game for encouraging bullying and encouraging like being mean to others and things like that. And I'm sure there's some things that don't age well from like 2004 or whatever, whenever this game came out. So right. I'm curious how it would hold up, but I just don't remember this game being that bad. I remember the people that were criticizing the game the most were the ones that were like anti-video games, like video games cause violence and cause bullying. Yeah. So I don't know. So I'm curious how people would react. But overall, I am interested in this. I am interested. I never finished Bully. I know the ending and everything, but I've never actually got through the whole game. I got like halfway or whatever, and then I stopped for whatever reason. I think a game came out when I was playing it. I just never went back to it. So this definitely interests me. I really hope it is a remaster. Because of course you can already buy it on Steam for like cheap. So it has to be something different than expected. Right. So Dory, I know you never played you haven't really played any of the Rockstar games that much. So what do you know of Bully? To put it that way.
So I remember I think I watched X-Play and they had a review of Bully, so I knew about the game.
Yeah, X-Play.
I knew of it, and I was like aware of what it was going on. I also knew about like the controversies around it and stuff like that. I didn't give much credence even back then. Yeah, I mean, Bully's a game that I never played, but I heard a lot about. Like you said, people our age, millennials basically, know about the game. But I would agree that at this point, it's kind of an underrated gem within the Rockstar library. You've got Red Dead and you've got Grand Theft Auto, and those are really the main games that get talked about. You never really hear anybody talk about Bully. But Bully did get pretty good reviews back when it came out. I believe mostly 8s, maybe some 9s. I don't know. And so it was very solidly reviewed at the time. I don't know if I would check it out going back. If it got decent reviews, maybe I'd check it out. I don't know. Rockstar's blend of humor is usually not for me. And I just don't find their games particularly appealing as an adult. Although, as I've said before, I did play Vice City and San Andreas as a kid, even though technically I was supposed to. But I had a blast then. I don't know if I would go out of my way to play this, but if it got really good reviews, and they probably edited some content and stuff like that, I don't think there's anything wrong with updating stuff to, I'm not saying you have to change complete things or, whitewash it or whatever. But I do think making some easy fixes, for that brand of mid 2000s humor. I mean, that's around the time frame all the kids thought it was cool to use gay as an insult, right? So I'm sure there's got to be some stuff that almost 20 years ago or over 20 years ago has not aged well, like you said. So I would be interested what Rockstar will do with that. I wouldn't surprise me if it's a remaster. Maybe it's just some kind of ploy for their GTA Plus model, but that seems strange because, like you said, you can already buy it on Steam, so that wouldn't make a lot of sense to me either. So I don't know. We'll see what it is. But you're right. The game's mostly about standing up to a bully. I mean, even the cover has a very bully-like character looking down at our main character with kind of an angry expression. So it's pretty clear from the beginning that you're not the bully. You can be a bully, but the whole point of the game is to not be a bully, and that bullies are bad, which I know, big hot take for video games in the mid 2000s. But yeah, I don't know. I hope it does well, whatever it is. And maybe I'll check it out if it gets good reviews. A lot of remasters these days, so this is just another one to put on the list. I guess I can't really, do a big rallying cry for digital preservation because this is already digitally preserved in terms of being on Steam and being now on GTA Plus and Xbox 360, PS4 emulation. Actually, it's funny when you were like, you can get it on a PS4 emulation. I was like, what? On like Dolphin or something? And then you were like, no, on PS Plus or whatever it is. The official.
That's what the term they use, but basically it's just a PS4 version you can buy. That's basically what they're saying.
For sure. Yeah, it's just funny because whenever you hear of emulators in video games, you always think about illegal stuff, online sites. I was looking up Incredible Hulk Ultimate Destruction after we talked about it last week or whatever it was, and there's no way to play it anymore short of emulating. So those are most of my thoughts.
Yeah, I think that was an emulator because I don't recall it being a remaster. I think it was just a straight up port. So maybe that's probably why they consider it an emulation version. All right. So that's that. Moving on to Final Fantasy XVI is finally coming to Steam on September 17th next month. Here, Yoshida announced that the RPG would be coming to PC sometime a year later, and so that is officially a year later. So let me read off TheVerge.com. The Square Enix has finally shared a release date for the PC version of Final Fantasy XVI on September 17th. It launched on PS5 in June of 2023. And then we had the 2 DLCs, as Dory played. I didn't play those. You can pre-order Final Fantasy XVI right now on Steam and in the Epic Games Store. And there are complete editions that include both DLCs to pre-order too. So I guess you can you get them all together, and also you can buy them separately. It's probably cheaper to buy them together as a bundle. I would think it could be on sale right now. They usually do. Square Enix usually does that when they do bundles. Like the Kingdom Hearts one was like very, very cheaper, much cheaper when it first came out. And you can also check out a demo for the game from both stores, which they did on PS5 when it first came out as well. and it covers the first like hour of the game, and your progress carries over, which is what they did when it came on PS5, and
Right.
that's when everybody was bitching about the frame rate and and the motion blur and all that. Since Final Fantasy 16 first launched, Square Enix was introduced to numerous updates to fix the bugs and quality of life features, including a quick complete function to zip back to quest giver, so it's like more of like a fast
Yeah,
travel. I
that
didn't
was
have
they
that.
had that in the DLC. It was great.
Awesome. I didn't have that when I played it, and it was very
Yeah.
tedious. Um,
Yes. It was just a quick pop-up menu. Do you want to go, like, once you complete it, a little menu popped up. Do you want to go back to the quest giver? I pretty much always said yes, unless like there was something really important that I left unfinished. And yeah, just it takes a couple seconds, zips you right back. It's great.
yeah. So overall, I think Final Fantasy 16 was a good game. It was in my top 10 games of last year. I had some problems with it, like the side quest. They felt like MMO side quests to me, where you was like, kill 7 of these and come back and turn it in, that kind of stuff. Because Yoshida worked on Final Fantasy 14, so there's a lot of influence from Final Fantasy 14. But overall, I thought the storyline was great. I thought the cinematic and the boss battles were like fantastic, very memorable. Like it was
Yes.
the music was jaw dropping. It was the best soundtrack of the year in my opinion last year, and I was really happy with that game, how it turned out. There overall, I think I would recommend it to anyone, especially if you like cinematic action RPGs. I understand the disappointment in this game because it wasn't like a typical Final Fantasy game. It was more like there's probably more in common with Devil May Cry than it was a typical Final Fantasy, but I thought it did a pretty good job balancing RPG elements with action, and I enjoyed the action of it. But yeah, like I said, I know people want a more traditional Final Fantasy game generally. And I think the storyline, as much as I liked it, I do think the whole like Omega, what his name was, Chaos guy at the end was
Tomorrow or whatever his name was.
it was like very generic. Like
Yeah.
I would have preferred more of a medieval like Game of Thrones, like just
Right.
more grounded storyline than a typical like there's a darkness influencing everybody and wants to take over the world. It was just that it kind of that annoyed me a bit, but overall, I would recommend it. I don't know if I'm going to buy this day one, of course, but I will play this at some point on PC because I think another issue with the PS5 version was the performance. Even though like halfway with my playthrough, the PS5 version got like an update and it looked way better with the motion blur and everything. I always thought to myself like, how is this game going to play on PC like on a high end settings? This game must be mind blowingly good on PC because the biggest drawback of this game was the performance, and so I'm excited to play this on my 4080. If Black Myth Wukong plays great on my PC, there's no reason why this game won't play great on PC unless Square Enix did a poor job optimizing it for PC. But games are every game is made for PC at first when they're developing it, and then they make it for consoles. So I can't imagine this game's gonna run shitty, but we'll see. And I think this is another example of Square Enix starting to make everything multi-platform. I think from now on, Square Enix is probably going to start putting their games on PC at the same time as their PS5 versions. I don't see exclusives anymore because their financials are just not good, and they had a big meeting, and it's been rough for Square Enix in recent years. And I think Final Fantasy VII Rebirth didn't sell as well as they hoped, and it's being
I
exclusive.
also just think they have unrealistic expectations. We've talked about it before, but I just think they have unrealistic expectations for sales.
That too. But it was exclusive to one platform, right? I'm sure Rebirth's going to do really well on PC.
Yes.
I don't see them ever coming to Xbox, but who knows? I guess because Final Fantasy VII Remake is still not on Xbox, the first one. So
right.
Yeah. So Dory, how do you feel about this? Sorry for going on a little.
I mean, I'm a big FF16 defender. I was really taken by it just within the first trailer. I also got those Game of Thrones vibes, and I loved the first 4 or 5 seasons of Game of Thrones. So I agree with you to some extent that I wish that it stayed a little more grounded and been more about the politics of the countries and nations and more about like slavery and stuff and that those themes. But you got a Final Fantasy itself, and eventually you had to kill a god. I understand. It didn't bother me as much as it bothered Seb, but I do understand like the criticism there, and I sympathize with it because I also would have loved a more grounded Final Fantasy. But then again, fantasy's in the title, so it's tough. This is awesome. I'm always going to support. I'm not a console warrior, never have been. I've had lots of consoles throughout my life. I started with Sega, then I went to Nintendo, then I went to Sony, then I went to Xbox. I went back to now I'm mostly a PC gamer, but also have Sony. So it's like I've never been a one console kind of person. I'm always in favor of more people being able to experience it. Completely agree with Seb that the cinematic battles are top notch. The soundtrack was of incredible quality, as you would expect from Final Fantasy. I think this is great. I think people who have high end or even mid range PCs are going to love this, and it's going to look great, especially that they did a lot of fixes. I personally don't remember, although my memory is not great, but I don't remember having a lot of issues on my PS5 when I played, but everybody's experiences are different. I played Jedi Survivor, and I didn't have a lot of issues, except for maybe like the first night or two before the day one patch hit. So everybody's experiences are different and valid, of course. But for me, I didn't have much trouble, but that was also, last year. So, I think this is great. And I hope Square finally gets the message that this partnership with Sony just ain't it. I mean, I love Sony and I love Square Enix, but it's clear that it's not meeting their needs and their projections as much as I think their needs and their projections are ridiculous and not realistic. Setting unrealistic expectations for Final Fantasy is ridiculous because it's one of the biggest video game franchises in the world, but whatever, I digress. So this is awesome, and I hope I bet anybody who goes back to play this will have a great time. I played both DLCs. I recommend them. I don't think they're going to drop your jaw or anything like that, but I had a great time with both of them. Mostly the second one, which introduced a new power. I think the last power that you can get, as well as some cool quests and quality of life stuff, like we mentioned before. The return to quest giver option was a really nice small implementation of a quality of life improvement. I'm overall very happy about this. I'm not going to go back and play it. I almost never do with video games. And also I have kind of a low end gaming PC. I'm running Black Myth on low to medium settings right now. So I will not be playing this either way. I think it's awesome.
Yeah. I think the DLC is probably really good if this is like your first time playing it and you don't know the ending yet. And I think the DLCs all take place before the ending anyway, right? So it's basically like the Game of the Year edition of the game. So it'll probably be a lot more impactful that way.
Yeah, I mean, no spoilers, but it is called Final Fantasy for a reason. A lot of these are basically just D&D one shots that don't end well for our main character. So
yeah, unless they have like numerous sequels, like some of them have.
Of course, unless you're like Lightning Returns or some shit,
or Final Fantasy X-2.
That's right, or 10-2. Yes, I was thinking about that as well. There are some exceptions, but for the most part, Final Fantasy is largely a one and done kind of thing.
It is. Yeah. All right, moving on to Silent Hills 2. Finally got some hands-on previews from all the outlets, and awesome enough. It's been quite positive, and I'm happy to see that because the reaction to this game overall has been quite negative, or at least mediocre-ish.
Mixed to negative, I would say. Yeah,
mixed. It's been very mixed, and but it turns out that a lot of people are very happy what they're seeing now, and there's a lot of praise about the quality of the game, which we'll get into right now. So I'm going off IGN, which I agree with most of their. From what I'm seeing, their opinion, except for like one part of it. So they said, first of all, it has a new dodge mechanic, which I saw in the gameplay as well. It allows him to dodge totally dart out of the way of an enemy's like projectile vomit, which those creatures, I forgot what they're called, the lying figures, I think they're called. Those are like the main enemies of the game.
Right.
Those and the
I have no idea.
The walking pair of legs that walk around on a handstand. Yep, there's a reason why they're shaped that way, but I won't get into that until we actually get into the game. It's a simple, quick shuffle, like not like Dark Souls. It's not like you're not doing dodge rolls like it's Dark Souls. It's not like a boss. It's not that kind of thing. But it's a tool that helped me quickly establish a swing dodge rhythm. That's what the guy is saying. It's lying figures. That's what it is. Yep. Perhaps the biggest compliment I can give it is that the move that feels like it always should have been in Silent Hill 2. Yeah, it looked pretty good. I'm sure it's not going to be the best dodge mechanic. Like because Resident Evil 3 had one and it was kind of janky, or it wasn't kind of. It was very janky. It didn't
Yeah.
always work properly. But this is definitely a good because Silent Hill 2's gameplay, the original, I love that game. Like it's my top 6 game of all time, and I praise the hell out of it all the time. But the gameplay does not hold up well at all.
Right. I think it's also worth noting that this is not Silent Hill has never been like Resident Evil, right? In terms of it being very gameplay focused. That's one of the biggest takeaways I got from the IGN hands-on and whatever other hands-on we looked at. GameSpot, I think, also did one. It's not as combat focused as Resident Evil is. Obviously, there is combat. You do shoot things, you do hit things. But I mean, James is not a special agent. He's not a police officer from Raccoon Department. You know, the RDP, RPD, whatever. He's not some superhero from an action film like Chris Redfield. He doesn't punch boulders. He's just a normal guy. Well, normal guy. He's just a normal guy who just is trying to stumble his way through this fog-filled town and trying to fight things. So I think they've taken a very intentional approach with the combat, and they're trying to make it clunky while not making it overly clunky. And I think it's going to be very subjective if that holds up for certain people. I have a feeling it's going to annoy me, probably just because I like smooth combat in general. But I don't know. I don't think it'll be a deal breaker at the same time. And I also respect that as long as they're open and honest about it, it doesn't bother me, right? And it makes sense. What I kept hearing too is it serves the story, right? Again, James is not a superhero. He's not like Leon. He's not some big buff guy like Chris. He is just a normal dude who's looking for his wife, and he's trying to shoot and hit things as best he can. He's doing his best, is what I'm saying. So I think as long as they continue to be open and honest, say this is not like Resident Evil 4, you're not going to kick ass and take names. You're barely going to be even taking names. I think it's fine. I think that's just something you have to accept about the series. Silent Hill's never been about the combat. It's about the atmosphere. It's about the psychological horror. And I love psychological horror. I love atmosphere in my horror genre, movies, games, whatever. So, yeah. And PT is like one of the scariest, best horror games of all time, if you want to call it a game. It's a demo, really. But yeah, I just wanted to add on to that.
Yeah, although Silent Hill games that did become gameplay focused were made by Western developers, and they all sucked, and everybody hated them.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, Dory's right. The Silent Hill has never really been about the gameplay. It's more about the atmosphere and the scares and the storyline. The gameplay is just to get you from point A to point B. I think the gameplay, even if it's not the best gameplay, as long as it's not frustrating, where you can kill enemies pretty easily or normally, like it's not like frustrating where you're dying every 5 seconds, or it shouldn't be that much of an issue for people, I would think. It's not going to be Resident Evil, of course, because Resident Evil, as Dory mentioned, is very combat focused. Even the old school ones are like you play as a cop or like an agent or something, and you always get grenade launchers and rocket launchers, and there's always a big boss battle or something, and you get shotguns and machine guns and rifles. And in Silent Hill, you get shotgun and a rifle and all that, but it's like he's just a normal guy that has a gun. He just stumbles upon it. It's not like he's trained to use it, as Dory mentioned. In Silent Hill, the protagonists in the best games are usually just like regular people that have demons. They bring it into Silent Hill, and it manifests into a monster. So yeah, in fact, everybody in Silent Hill 2 is a regular person who has their own insecurities. It's like in the gameplay, in the trailer, we saw Eddie. We finally got to see Eddie in full depth. Eddie is the guy that is overweight, and he looks really good. He looks spot on to how he looked in the original, because I know there was a big criticism with the lady.
I can't remember her name, but I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, I don't know why I'm blanking her name all of a sudden, but it's been a while. People were criticizing that, but Eddie looks great. Eddie, of course, is insecure about his weight, and he got bullied, and he did something really bad, and he's very loose cannon. I'll just put it that way. So that looked good. It looks very spot on to the game. I think overall it looks very faithful to the original. I know they added some new locations and stuff, and the introduction of the lying figure is different than in the game. Where in the game you kind of stumble into under a bridge, and then you fight the monster. But this one, you go into like a building. I think this one was like a bar you go into to
Yeah,
fight.
they mix up some of the article says that they expand some of the opening hours of Silent Hill. So
Yes. So it's very faithful, but there's gonna expand upon it as a remake should, right? It should be mostly the
right,
same, but it should always expand upon. Like when Resident Evil 2 remake came out, the locations were very similar, but they expanded upon it and made it their own thing as well. So I hope Silent Hill 2 does that as well. I'm like where it feels familiar and you can kind of go by, like you can recognize like the map and the locations, but it still feels like its own thing because the Raccoon Police Department looked very different in the remake, even though, but at the same time felt very much the same as well. They did a great job capturing that. So hopefully Silent Hill does that. Because Silent Hill is very much so going from point A to point B. Silent Hill 2, you're gonna be running through the city a lot, like a lot. So it's very important that they capture that. All right, moving on. So we hit on the how it being faithful. So let's talk about the puzzles. So apparently, this game has a lot of puzzles, as it should. Silent Hill is
yeah,
all about puzzles, and they're quite difficult. Silent Hill's puzzles are always been more difficult than Resident Evil puzzles. They're more environmental, and you have to think more outside the box, which I know can be frustrating for some people. And apparently this has a riddle difficulty again. So you can pick easy mode, easy riddle mode, or you can do like a really difficult puzzle mode. Um, which is not a big problem anyway. Unless it's like random, you can probably look it up the solution anyway. If you really wanted to get the higher one like figured out, or you can just do easy mode and easy riddle mode and just solve the puzzles pretty quickly. So it's not too bad. Um, but their IGN criticized that. They felt it was frustrating to figure out. I'm kind of mixed about it because it's at the same time I want it to be true to original, but at the same time I hate puzzles in games, and I don't want it to be like really frustrating either.
right.
So I don't know. I'm not one of the, I always said this. I don't try to like pretend like I'm some genius. I look up the puzzle solution. Like if I'm stuck for like 5 minutes, I'm not one of those people who takes pride in like trying to solve it on my own. I'm not wasting 2 hours trying to solve a puzzle. I'll just look it
Yeah,
up. I only
yeah.
have so much time in the day to play games, and I'm not standing there for 2 hours trying to solve a puzzle. Like Uncharted, I hate the I really don't like the puzzles in Uncharted. I mean, they give you the whole like Indiana Jones vibe, and that's what they're
Don't
going
even
for.
talk to me about Uncharted 3 and those fucking puzzles. That's one of
Yeah.
the reasons I really didn't like Uncharted 3. I hated those puzzles. They were so obtuse and frustrating, took me out of the game. When I wasn't frustrated with the game's plot and writing, I was frustrated with the game's puzzles.
Yes.
So yeah.
Another example is I was playing like the original Prince of Persia on my Steam Deck, like the original,
Right.
and there was a puzzle section, and it's one of the hardest puzzles I've ever seen in my life. I'm like this game had a cool gameplay vibe going on. It was flowing very well, and then they just throw like this nasty like spin puzzle where you have to like line up pillars, and there's like there's like certain gaps that like prevent you from spinning one with them, and you have to make sure everything lines up on like 4 different sides. I'm like I can't do this. I can't do
Yeah.
this. And when I play Resident Evil 4, I always dread that section where they want you to do that puzzle with the sliders, that sliding puzzle, in the original one. I mean,
Yeah, the with Ashley.
yes, I'm so glad they took that out
Yes.
of the remake.
Yes, I am glad as well. Yes.
I always hated that part. That part always ruins my speed run.
Yes. Yep. I'm really glad as well. When I was speedrunning RE4, I was always very happy they took that out. The Ashley part still scares me just because you can die in one hit. And that can kill your run. No, unless if you're really trying to go for good time and kill your run. But I was casually speedrunning, so it wasn't a huge deal. But yeah. I will have no trouble putting this on easy if I have to. I'll probably start with normal, and I'll adjust the puzzle difficulty if I need to, if it takes me out of the game. That is, if the game gets good reviews. If it gets, I think, 7s and 8s, I might wait for a sale. I'll certainly get it, though. If it gets 8s and 9s, I'm probably day one, just because I've never played Silent Hill 2. So, yeah, I am excited to see how they handle it in terms of puzzles and in terms of gameplay.
Yeah. So, there's two criticisms that IGN gave it, and I don't agree with either one. First of all, they criticize it not being not subverting expectations and like doing its own thing. Like they're saying it's too faithful, like too close to the original game. I don't feel that as an issue. Like
I don't either.
Because I think like I know Final Fantasy VII Remake did that, where they completely changed it and did like a whole new timeline, like storyline where like Sephiroth's self-aware that he's like in a timeline and he's trying to change it, like it's a Flashpoint storyline or something. Like
Right.
I get that, but I also think that's very convoluted. And as much as I love the Final Fantasy VII games, it gets really Nomura craziness. Um,
Yes.
so I don't think Silent Hill 2 needs to do some like thing like that. I have no issue with being faithful to the original, especially since like Silent Hill, as much as Silent Hill is popular on the internet, it really is not a giant series. It's a very well known IP, but a lot of people have not played Silent Hill 2. So this is gonna be a lot of people's introduction to Silent Hill 2, like Dory, for example. So like I think it's important for people to experience the story that's like one of the greatest horror stories ever made. Like, and not just like in video games, but like in all of horror media. So I think it's important to stay faithful to it. Because even if the gameplay is not great, the storyline and the music and everything is so iconic and like really well done. Like it really tackles some serious themes, like abuse and stuff, and
Right.
it doesn't in a good way. It doesn't like exploit these kind of people. It actually tells a good story and that people can relate to. You know what I mean? So it's very important that the story is done correctly. Not
It's important that Bloober Team does this, not like they did it with the medium. In other words,
exactly. Which as long as they follow the original storyline, they should be good. If they go off the rails and start doing their own thing, where and they start offending people and they do it incorrect, this game's gonna be
yeah,
blasted for that and it's gonna
yeah,
derail it. So
justly
please,
so, because the medium did as well. Which was part of the reason why I was surprised that Bloober Team of all teams. I know obviously they have a lot of respect for
yeah,
Silent Hill and for the team behind it, but
yeah.
geez, just because you have respect for something doesn't necessarily mean you can do it. I have a lot of respect for professional wrestlers. That doesn't mean I'm going to start trying to do a 5-star frog splash in the middle of the ring. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Going to start looking like Snoop Dogg. All respect to him, of course. But anyway, I don't know where we got to that tangent. But yeah, just to say, it's weird. It's a weird choice, but I hope Luber does right by the franchise because it's so important for horror fans. So yeah.
Yes, and then the another criticism that IGN gave it was going through drawers and cupboards like Last of Us, where like you find out ammo and supplies like that. I think that's more realistic. I like that better than just hitting the X button and you just pick up the item in a menu.
This is such a weird criticism to me. As soon as he said it, I immediately messaged you and I was like, what is he talking about? Like, who fucking cares? Like, takes you out of the environment? Dude, it's like 5 seconds to click on kitchen cupboards. Like, who cares?
If anything,
I don't know. Like, what does he want? Like, does he want, like, to enter a room as James, is it Sutherland? I can't remember his name.
Yeah.
Is that an actor? Yeah, James Sutherland. And just, like, vacuum clean. Like fucking Luigi. Like, he just wants him to vacuum clean all the items into his hand. I don't know what he wants exactly, but like I thought this was a silly criticism.
Yeah, I think
it's not a big deal, but I just thought it was silly.
I think in Last of Us, it flows pretty good when you're fighting something and like and you pick up an item while you're like dodging. Like I feel it feels fine.
I low key think that works a lot in The Last of Us. I really like going through various drawers. Honestly, it does kind of break up the story, but it does in a nice way for me because The Last of Us has always partially been a survival game. Right, a survival horror game. I mean, less so in the second one, arguably.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, and so if this has survival elements, I mean, it's a horror game. That's right at home.
That's what
I'm saying. I think this is just the reviewer's own individual idiosyncrasies, but I don't know.
Yeah, like I don't understand. It's just survival horror is literally finding supplies,
right,
in different rooms. Like that's been the case since the original Resident Evil. Like it's just how the genre is supposed to be. So whatever. Anyway, that's Silent Hill 2. Dory, like she said, is gonna get the game based on reviews. Me, I'm day one no matter what, unless this game gets like really bad reviews. Even if this game gets like a 70 or 69 on Metacritic, I probably will still pull the trigger because Silent Hill 2 is just one of those games for me. And I'll probably like it better than reviewers. If reviewers hate it, and I'll probably like it a little more than them. But my expectations have definitely gone higher now after watching the gameplay. Because I watched a lot of gameplay now, and I don't feel like it's been spoiler for me because I know the game so well. So yeah, I don't recommend watching the gameplay if you're new to the series and you're really interested in this because it shows like pretty much the entire first like 30 minutes of the game. What's the point? So, all right, moving on to what we're playing. So, I'll just start mine because I don't want to start with Black Myth Wukong yet. I've been
Yeah.
playing the WoW, like the War Within. The new expansion just came out. If you have early access, which I do, I bought the Epic Edition. I know that's kind of a scummy Activision thing, but I pulled the trigger like months and months and months ago. I'm really enjoying it so far. Of course, I won't. I'm not gonna get too deep into it because next week is when it officially comes out, and I'll have a lot more hours put into it. Because obviously, playing an MMO, you cannot give a 2 hour impression. Yeah, it takes serious time. So, but overall, I'm enjoying it, and the content's cool, and the storyline's pretty good so far. It's not like mind blowing or anything like that. It's a typical expansion. This is part of their World Saga like storyline where like the next 3 expansions are going to connect to each other, and it's like I'm guessing that they're building up to like the finale of WoW, or if it's what it feels like for the next like 10 years, all the expansions are going to like connect to each other, and that like once we get to the final expansion of the saga, maybe like this is when they like reboot the whole game or do a remake or a WoW 2 or something. That's what it just feels like. It just feels like, where do we go from here? Like maybe in the future, this is when they're going to start like rebooting the characters and doing a whole new timeline or something. Just because there's only so much you can do at this point. This game is 20 years old. This is the 20th anniversary this year. So I've been playing WoW since 2004. Like I'm an OG fan. I played this game when I was 11 years old in 6th grade, which is what I teach.
Wow.
So it's pretty wild how long this game has been going, and it still has a pretty good audience, and it's now owned by Microsoft. So I'm curious how that's going to work out when they eventually get their shit together. I would be nice if WoW was tied to the subscription was tied to Game Pass. That would be amazing. That's where I feel like Game Pass price would be worth it. If it was $20 a month, but you get like the WoW subscription with it or something like that, that's where I wouldn't mind paying for Game Pass. You know what I mean? It needs a little more perks if you're gonna increase the pricing. But I don't want to go on a tangent about that. I'll talk about I'll talk about the War Within more next week, and more in depth, because that's gonna be the main thing I'm playing. And then finally, I've been playing Black Myth Wukong, which Dory's been playing as well. But before we get into it, is there another game you were playing, Dory, or was that just that?
Still playing Dragon Age 2. I stopped before, just as Wukong came out. I'm still really enjoying it. It still feels like they put a kind of Groucho disguise on a game and called it Dragon Age. It feels so weird in a way because the presentation and UI is so different. I think really what it is they just made it a lot more simplified and a lot more mainstream, and just I really think a lot of it comes down to the development time. They only released this 2 years after Origins, so I feel like BioWare just didn't have a lot of time to really develop a new game. I mean, I've spent I think the first 10 hours in one city, which sounds expansive, right? But a lot of it's going to the same areas, doing the same quests. I want to be clear, this is not a bad game. It's a great game. But it is absolutely a downgrade from Origins, and I can understand why people felt the way they do about Dragon Age 2 when it came out. But it's still a great game. I mean, I still love the combat, even though it's a lot more simplified and less crunchy than it was in the last game, and I preferred it like that. Gave me big Baldur's Gate 3 vibes, which is, of course, a huge compliment. Whereas this feels like kind of baby's first CRPG in a way. I really feel like BioWare tried to simplify combat as much as possible, either for development time or for mass appeal, maybe both, porque no los dos. So that's kind of my takeaway right now. The characters are still written brilliantly. The graphics seem to have taken a step backwards. I don't know how that's possible. They seem to have switched engines or done something to their original engine. I'm not sure which. And faces look weird. I've talked about this before last week, but they look very blocky and smudgy, and it's not terrible. It's just noticeable. And yeah, I'm almost like into the dark road, which is like the first major point of the game. But I'm doing basically all of the side quests, all of the companion stuff. You know, I'm basically doing everything I can. I'm not 100%ing the game, but I am looking to do main quest plus side quests. So it will probably take me about 35 to 40 hours to beat it, which is notably 15 to 10 hours less than Origins. Again, that 2-year development time probably a factor in that. But yeah, I'm still having a great time. It's still a great game. But it's not Origins, and I think that's very apparent from what I've played so far. It's a step down, but it's not also not hard to have a step down from Origins, which I think is just an incredible game.
So before we get into Black Myth Wukong, do you want to talk about the controversy stuff? Or do you want to talk about the game itself first?
Yeah. So I appealed to Seb about this because there's just various like things going on here that I wanted to talk about before we talk about the game. I have a lot of good things to say about the game, just to get that out of the way. But I do want to talk about some of the stuff going on in the background because there's been a lot of news about it. Black Myth's been in the discussion for a long time now because the trailer came out 4 or 5 years ago. Obviously, the first controversy we've already talked briefly on was the article by IGN by Rebecca Valentine concerning a history of sexism in the studio. I'm not going to go into full detail. I'm not going to read the article verbatim just because there's a lot of quotes in there that I just don't feel comfortable reading, and I'm not going to read, to be honest. But you can go check it out if you want. Basically, the TLDR is that multiple people within game science, especially high-ranking members, have on record, like, screenshotted, like, this is official. No one's taking them out of context. No one's, like, I see a lot of comments like, oh, the IGN's, like, slandering them or some shit. Like, this is stuff, like, they publicly said on social media, like, so anyway, they basically made a lot of gross, unprofessional remarks about human anatomy and stuff. Some stuff about women having certain kind of games and men having certain kind of games, the audience for their games, stuff like that. They had posters about the workplace and friendship with benefits stuff. It was really gross too. And then of course anybody who ever called this out, especially Chinese women, who are quoted in Valentine's article usually under a pseudonym because they don't want to get harassed, which is just the kind of world we live in, unfortunately. Said that game science just has this reputation of being, great in terms of the games they make, but a very questionable studio environment and atmosphere. But yeah, one of my main kind of frustrations here is, of course, IGN dropped their review. It was an 8 out of 10 because the reviewer, Mitchell Salzman, had a lot of problems with it, tech issues, specifically falling through the ground. He lost boss fights, like entire boss fights. This game is a very difficult game. Losing boss fights would obviously upset anybody, really. It's mostly after Chapter 2, which is not footage they really gave to a lot of people, so that felt a little disingenuous at the time. But of course, if you're running higher NPCs like Seb is, you might not be having issues. I'm not sure what Saltzman was running. But it's just frustrating, too, because a lot of people are, of course, criticizing IGN. And I'm fine with people criticizing IGN, right? 7 out of 10, too much water, right? Blah, blah, blah. And so I'm not saying they're above criticism or anything like that, but it's frustrating because even if you disagree with Rebecca Valentine's article or whatever, she has nothing to do with the review, right? And she has nothing, as far as I know, nothing to do with it. But everybody always loves to collectivize IGN, right? So IGN posted the article, so therefore Mitchell Saltzman must agree with all of it or deserves to be harassed in the comments. And this stuff just frustrates me because it's unfair at best and disingenuous at worst, because it's like, he has nothing to do with that article. And I'm not saying therefore go harass the other writer, but it's just frustrating to me because it's just such a silly point. It's like, oh, well, you guys gave, there's a comment like you guys gave Cyberpunk a 9 out of 10. The guy who reviewed it is a completely different person, like 5 years ago. And I don't even know if he works at IGN anymore. Right. It's important to note that these are all individual reviewers. Right. And yes, IGN posted it. So obviously they are collectively saying this represents our opinion to some extent, but the extent to which comments go off on people about it is egregious, to me anyway. So yeah, I don't know. It's just a frustrating thing. And I think it makes sense in the review itself to give it an 8 out of 10. If you're falling through the ground, you're losing entire boss fights. I know this is Game Science's first big game. I understand that it's going to have problems. It's going to have performance issues. I'll talk about that in a second. I understand that, and I don't think that's the be-all, end-all. It's not a deal breaker. I'm playing Black Myth. Seb's playing Black Myth. I'm not saying we should cancel Game Science or we should never buy their games. I just want them to do better, honestly. I just think that, and some of these comments are from years ago, so I hope that these people have learned. But unfortunately, a lot of these issues are rampant in the tech industry within China right now, according to Valentine's article. And then furthering that, there were some issues about, I think Seb and I talked a little bit about this in our DMs. but just about how Game Science had some really weird restrictions on what you could or could not talk about if you were like previewing the game. So you couldn't talk about COVID, you couldn't talk about other Chinese games, so you couldn't talk about Nine Souls, which just came out and is getting really good reviews. And then you couldn't talk about feminist propaganda, whatever that means. It's just a bad look. It just makes Game Science, all they had to really do was let the game speak for itself, but they decided to like put these weird restrictions on streamers. And I just think it's unfair and just a really weird move, especially if they're always saying no comment to the stuff that's come out from their social media. And then they say stuff like this. So it's like, it speaks pretty loud to me. Last thing I want to mention, and this is away from those controversies, is just performance issues on PS5. I'm not playing on PS5. I was considering it if it didn't run well on my PC, but luckily I'm mostly okay on low to medium settings. It has basically Digital Foundry had a huge 30-minute video. Or I don't know if it's huge. I don't watch a lot of their videos, but it was huge to me. Huge 30-minute video about PS5 and a lot of the performance issues. Basically, it explains why nobody got a PS5 version, because I honestly think this is a PC game first and a PS5 game second, or console game second. They clearly made this game more for high-end PCs, mid to high-end PCs, and even then I'd say more so high-end. This is a very chunky, heavy game to play on your PC. I have to put it on low settings. I think I've got like a 1680 or something. So I'm not running the best software, and I'm not blaming Game Science for that necessarily. But it's unfortunate. Basically on PS5, there's quality, performance, and balance. And basically, no matter what mode you're using, you're taking some trade-offs, which isn't inherently bad, right? That's how it should be. But the trade-offs that they're making are very weird, according to the people at Digital Foundry. So don't get mad at me, get mad at Digital Foundry, I guess. And people in the comments have, even though they're just pointing out objective things. Like, this is what's frustrating to me about Black Myth 2, is like you can't talk about the game without people coming after you and thinking you're woke or something, right? The people at Digital Foundry are not even talking about the political issues of the studio. They're just talking about like objective things about like FPS and frame loss and stuff like that. And then people are like, oh, you're like, whatever, this and that. So, I mean, it's a loud minority, but it's still loud. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I'd recommend playing this on PS5. You probably want a high-end PC like Seb has. If you want to play it on low settings, medium settings, I think you can do that. I have had some frame issues on the bigger bosses. I only just got to chapter 2, while Seb is on chapter 4. I believe. So he is like twice as far as I am and hasn't had any major tech issues. Anyway, that is pretty much all I wanted to say. Just wanted to get that out of the way. All that stuff did make me feel kind of conflicted about spending my money on Wukong, just because I don't really like what the studio's up to in terms of their own internal atmosphere. But on the other hand, I do think this game is very impressive. It's very good in terms of its combat. I don't care about the story. I could care less about it. And that's coming from a Dragon Ball fan. But I do think that they've made a lot of impressive things here, and I just want to see the studio do better. So that's mostly, I think that there's plenty of room for growth and people to do better, and just think that some of the stuff that's being talked about is being overlooked because people want to uncritically enjoy their video games. Like, there's a way to buy this game and still criticize Game Science and say, look, you guys can do better than this in terms of your culture and stuff. I think they can do better in terms of the game too. I don't think the game is perfect. But yeah, that's my whole spiel. That's my soapbox. I try not to get on it too much. And I know there's like really no point in engaging with YouTube comments. But this is like a fallacy with IGN that's made me frustrated for a long time. Any place really, but IGN gets it the worst, of course, because they're the biggest. And again, I'm not saying you can't criticize IGN. You should. But just this particular frame of criticism always frustrates me, because there's different reviewers for different games years apart, and we're collecting them all together. So it's very aggravating to me. But yeah, Seb, I know you're already on chapter 4. I know you've been mostly loving it, I think.
I would say mostly. I really love it. I think it could be my game of the year. I still wouldn't put it as my game of the year, but it's definitely in my top 3 now. Overall, I think the game is great. There's a lot of elements of it that I really love. Starting with the visuals. As Dory mentioned, I have a 4080 PC, and so I have a high-end PC. I'm one of the rare, 1%ers of PC gamers. Most PC gamers have medium to low computers going by Steam. And this game is definitely built for higher end PCs. It has a lot of particle effects, a lot of visuals, a lot of environmental aspects. This is a very high end AAA cinematic game. This game goes for the God of War 2018 giant cinematic moments. It very much so feels like a PlayStation game if Sony made it, which they didn't. It it's definitely made for a higher end PC. It's one thing about performance is very subjective. Because like some people can have a lot of issues on a certain CPU or GPU, while others don't. So it's very important when you read reviews or watch reviews that you pay attention to what specs they use, and that you also also rely on different like places to listen to and read. Because like if you don't go by just one source, because the performance of somebody is so subjective. Because my performance of Wukong has been nearly flawless. I have had almost no issues. It's been pretty perfect. I'm not like pretty perfect. I'm not saying like nothing's going wrong. It's just like I'm playing at ultra settings across the board, and I'm getting about 108 to 120 frames per second, and I've had a great performance. But that requires a very high end PC. So it's like I said, it's very important that you rely on other sources for reviews, not just one, because everybody's performance is so subjective. Because someone can have a high end PC but have a different CPU that doesn't go well with the game. Every game is optimized in different ways. So yeah, I think the game looks gorgeous. This is one of the most prettiest games I ever seen in my entire life. Like this is one of the best games I've ever seen. Like it's absolutely mind blowing. I have, not to brag, I also have a really nice monitor. Like I have an OLED monitor. I have the Alienware one, widescreen, and I invested in PC a lot, and it's worth. This is the game it was worth the money. Like that, it was like because my PC and my monitor were expensive, and it's fun. They're all paid off now, but like this is the game that like this is why I invested in PC. Like this is why, because other people are having issues, and I'm having a flawless, mind blowing experience. In the visuals, in terms of gameplay, the gameplay is really good. Like, because gameplay is king. I don't care how good the visuals are. If the gameplay sucks, it doesn't matter, right? The gameplay is awesome. I think the gameplay is very much so a Souls-light, not a like. It's a Souls-light. It is a Souls game in the sense that there's bonfires, like there's like those basically the shrines, and when you die, you go back to the shrine, and enemies respawn when you rest. I would compare this game to the Jedi Fallen Order game or Jedi Survivor more than like Dark Souls or Bloodborne or something. But this game is difficult. It's not. I'm not saying it's not Sekiro hard. It's not Elden Ring like in some parts. I don't think Elden Ring is super hard except for the DLC. The DLC is really hard. And I think it's like on the level of, it's like in the middle, I guess. Cause I feel like in the older, like Dark Souls, you can like grind and get really overpowered like by just killing enemies over and over again. This game is like skill based, like where you have to constantly dodge and you have to get better at timing. This game is very much focused on dodging and not parrying. You can parry in this game, but it's basically it's not Sekiro. It's not like you're constantly hitting the button to parry. You're constantly dodging and dodging and dodging. And he has like the after image effect where he's dodging an enemy. And you have to get better at the timing. The enemies use like a pattern over and over again. So it is a Souls-light in the sense that like enemies use the same exact pattern. The bosses use a pattern, and you gotta memorize. You have to look at the key moments where like, oh, I have to get out of the way because he's gonna slam the ground and cause an earthquake around him, that kind of thing. Right. So there's a Souls-light in that regard, and it's challenging. It's but it's not like the hardest game I ever played. It's somewhere in the middle, I guess. If you like those kind of games where like you have to pay attention and you have to be on your guard and you have to be in the mood for like you have to be in gamer mode, I can't recommend it. But if you're like me, like I'm a Souls veteran at this point. I've been playing Souls games for a long time now. This is very much that kind of game. So this game's not for everybody. If you're going to this game expecting like a very casual, action heavy Final Fantasy 16 kind of game, this is not this game. This game is not Souls hard, but it's definitely like that sphere. So you have to be on your A game when you're playing this game. But and there's no difficulty options. There's one difficulty for everybody. So that's there as well. Maybe they'll patch it easy mode in the future someday, but probably not. What else? So the gameplay is unique in the sense that there's a lot of cool abilities. He can turn into animals. And he can turn into spirits. You don't play as Wukong. You play as like I guess another monkey. I don't know if it's like
I think it's like a descendant or something.
Yeah,
I
was gonna say descendant of him. But basically he throughout the game you're inheriting all of Wukong's powers. Each chapter you're getting a new ability or something. And I'm guessing it's building up to him finally encountering or meeting Wukong, because Wukong is like trapped in stone in the beginning of the game. The beginning of the game is like on the level of God of War 3. It's mind blowing. It's incredible. It was so awesome seeing the gods and the army all gathered around Wukong, because Wukong is an awesome character. I've always been a big fan of Journey to the West, and I love how fearless he is. He takes on an entire army of gods by himself. And that beginning sequence is how you start a game. Like that game that drew me in immediately. And I love how cinematic and like story based this game is. This game could have easily been gameplay focused, but there's a lot of cutscenes in this game. There's a lot of scenes where you end up like fighting a boss, and then there's a big cutscene and dialogue, and this game is fully voice acted. There's some elements. The voice acting is probably better in Chinese. Sometimes the lips don't match the English dialogue, and then there's some parts where like when you have like the headless guitarist, he's singing in Chinese, and it's kind of jarring going from like all the characters being English and then the characters speaking, singing in Chinese. So it might be better and more authentic if you just switch to Chinese overall, but or Mandarin. Mandarin Chinese. But yeah, I think if you love cinematic action heavy games, you're gonna love this, and if you're a Souls fan, you like this. But I can't recommend it for everybody. Dory, how do you feel about the gameplay?
Yeah, I know I just said a lot of negative shit about it, but that's mostly negative shit about the studio, not about the game. The game itself is fantastic. I think this is absolutely going in my top 10, maybe my top 5. Again, I want to be clear. I have a, I don't know, 1680 or some shit. I don't know PC stuff. Okay.
1650, I think you said.
What's that?
I think you said 1650. I want to say.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. It's a low end gaming PC, right? I spent about $800 on it. So it's not. I didn't make the investment. Seb did. I don't think I ever will. But even then, even on my low medium settings, I think this game looks fucking amazing. Even on my PC, even if not on cinematic stuff, and I literally can't put on ray tracing even if I wanted to, because that's where my PC's at.
Mine's on max. Mine's on max.
Exactly. So Seb and I, this is good though, because it means Seb and I are having radically different experiences. I have had slowdown. I have had experiences where I've seen a lot of pop-ins. That doesn't bother me a ton, but it is notable.
I have gotten some pop-ins, not like nothing jarring. Okay.
Right.
No game is flawless like that. Like there's
right.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Right. For me, it's jarring. But again, I'm on a low-end gaming PC, so that's not me coming at the game or whatever. And I expect that. I'm actually just glad that my PC can run this game, because I really wasn't sure. I must have sent Seb some variation of this message 500 times. I don't know if my PC is going to be able to handle this game. I will give it about an hour and a half, if I even can. My PC doesn't explode. Just because I knew it was for high ends, and my PC is not high end.
I do think it's a fair criticism if a game's only made for like the 1% of.
Yes.
Gamers.
I think that sucks. Honestly, I do think that sucks. I think gaming should be more accessible than that. I spent $800 on my PC and I still have trouble with this game. I think that's ridiculous. But when I'm not having trouble, which is most of the time, I am having a blast. I think the combat is so good. I think that there are so many options for you in terms of spirits, transformations, attacks, stances. upgrading your foundation. I have just been having a blast with it. I think the combat is really fun. I will say one weakness of a combat, kind of the Donatello effect, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. You're hitting with a stick, so sometimes it just doesn't feel like very satisfying in a way. It doesn't, because you're not really like.
It's a staff. It's a.
I know, but but a staff is just a.
Staff.
It's just a.
Yeah.
It's just a stick. It's a glorified stick.
A magical one that extends like a.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, extends like the power pole in Dragon Ball, which I know is based on this. So technically, yeah. Anyway, but for me, it's like it kind of thud thunk. It just doesn't. Ironically, it doesn't really hit for me as much. It's a minor criticism, but it does kind of feel sometimes like I feel like I should just be knocking them out rather than killing them. But whatever. It's a minor thing at best. I know the bosses so far have been awesome. The biggest trouble I had was the chapter 1 boss so far, who was a big black bear wreathed in fire. I'm an idiot. I had a thing that would have made me immune to fire, and I forgot to put it on, so I had a lot more trouble with that fight than I really should have. It took me about an hour to beat him. But I'm just having a blast. It's so fun to connect combos. I do get some stutter and some frame loss when huge characters are on the screen, like that big black bear. The cat, I don't know what they were, a leopard or a tiger or whatever they were. Not the tiger with the red blades, but the one at the temple that runs around like Nemesis does on top of the roofs. I thought the hair follicles looked really bad, like really terrible on my PC. It looked, I guess to quote Digital Foundry, it looked very aliased. It just looked very blurry and bad.
I think it's.
But again, what? Sorry, yeah.
I think it's because everything's in real time, even the cutscenes. Like everything's in real time, so like it puts a lot of strain on the computer.
Yes, it's a very and again, I am running I'm going to say this a million times. I'm running a low end PC, so I'm not like mad at the game for it, but I do have to point it out because I do think it sucks that I spent $800 on this PC a few years ago and now it struggles. I just think that's unrealistic to expect everybody to have something that Seb has. And I'm glad that Seb does have it because it makes us have a different experience and. It's good to have. I wish I was playing the PS5 version because then I could give even a different take on like what's happening with Wukong. But yeah, what were we gonna say? Seb?
It's just how technology goes. Like $800 nowadays can probably buy a 300 series PC like pretty cheap now. Yeah. So it's just it's something.
Yeah, I think at the time it was like 2020 or 2021. It's been like 4 years, right, since $800.
Yeah,
so.
It's probably time to get another upgrade at some point.
Yeah, well, that's not happening anytime soon. I'm not unless we have another pandemic and I get another big check from the government. Although I am going back to college, so maybe I'll get a big check that way. Anyway, so yeah, I've been loving it. One thing I will say that I do not care about. I know Seb said that he's interested in it. I don't give a shit about the characters or the story. I just think the way they're telling the story is very presumptuous. It's very geared towards a Chinese audience because children are brought up with Journey from the West, and obviously I love Dragon Ball. I know some things about Journey from the West, but I mean it's Akira Toriyama very loosely adapted a Journey from the West. Obviously, it's not that close. Besides, Goku running on flying on a cloud and having a tail and being a monkey, blah blah blah, and being mischievous and stuff like that. It just drops you in the middle of it where Wukong's already fighting the gods, and then you're a descendant of Wukong, and this old guy keeps talking to me who's got like eyes all over his eyebrows, and I'm like, bro, why are you helping me? I don't understand your motivation. Maybe he explained it, but I just kind of got lost, and it's strange because the game, it's not like the game's like obscure, and it's not like it's Dark Souls in terms of like lore. Like there are cutscenes, unlike Dark Souls. This isn't a criticism, this is just narrative difference, but unlike Dark Souls, where a lot of your narrative comes from item descriptions and brief dialogue, this comes from full-on cutscenes, even animated cutscenes, which honestly I thought ran on a little too long at the end of Chapter 1. I was like, okay, like, can I get back to Monkey or what? But so I just, personally, it doesn't move me so far. I don't really care. I don't feel invested in the story or the characters. That's not a big deal because I love the combat so much. That's really just me being impatient and saying, okay, this animation's beautiful, but I don't care. And I just want to like smack up some more wolves, fools, whatever. So I'm on chapter 2 now. I'm having a great time with it. I think it's excellent so far. It's not like it's not my game of the year. I don't think it will be, just because of my issues with some of the performance stuff and some of my issues with the story. I just don't think it can be a 5 out of 5 for me, which doesn't mean perfect, but regardless, I don't think it deserves a 5 out of 5 from me personally. That could change, of course. Maybe the story gets really good down the line. Maybe the combat gets even better and just absolutely carries it. But I do want to note that it's very funny. This is the third Souls-Light game I played this year, right? I started with Another Crab's Treasure, then I went to Flintlock, now I'm at Black Myth. So my Dark Souls Light era has begun, apparently.
I told you.
Yeah.
Before you know it,
I'm still not playing Dark Souls.
You're gonna be playing Elden Ring and Bloodborne soon. It's only a matter of time.
It's only a matter of time.
When that Bloodborne PC port comes out eventually, you will be you will be there.
Right next to that 60 FPS port. Yeah. So I think this is an excellent game, and I'm having a really great time with it. There are some problems I really think that they should fix. There's some videos up on YouTube if you want to see some of the problems that they should fix. Oh, one thing I will say, this hasn't really bothered me, but I am directionally challenged. There's no map. I don't think that's a huge deal because the game is fairly linear, but I can see how it bothers some people because, especially if you go to a different chapter and you try to go back to an earlier chapter to fight a boss that you missed, or if you watch a video and it's like, here's how to unlock the secret boss from chapter 1. It's like, you'll have to go back and remember where the heck it is. It's a minor thing, but yeah. I wish they would have a mini map or something in the top right or top left. To make things a little more accessible.
Yeah, there is a waypoint path. Like it glows of where to go. But yeah, that was one of my criticisms. It's not a huge criticism, but I wish this game did have a map, and I wish it had. Sometimes it'd be a little confusing where to go, especially like there's part like you got to go in the tunnel. I could not find the tunnel at all. I guess I don't know if other people had that issue. I got lost a little bit, but for the most part, it's not an issue because this game is pretty linear. And this game is very much so a boss rush game. It reminds me of it's kind of like Cuphead, where like it's not really about the destination, but it's about the actual like boss battles themselves. It's like the side enemies, like the mini, are really easy to kill. Like all the wolves, for example, they die in like
wolves are stupid as shit.
Yeah, they die in like 2-3 shots, and then the boss battles are like epic and have.
I do want to say earlier when you were talking about how you can't. I apologize if I'm misquoting you because you said this a while ago, or a little bit ago, but basically, like I think you can kind of grind your way to, because every time you die, you can come back, you can hit those guys.
You can
faith or will.
Yeah, you can definitely grind this game and get leveled up and stuff, but this game is still very much skill based in terms of like you have to dodge at the right time and things like that.
Sure,
like,
it's not a button masher, right? I think some people. Well, not some people, but I saw one review of calling it a button masher, and I think that's just completely wrong. There's transformations and spirits and soaks and drinks and just a bunch of different mechanisms and mechanics here that you need to think strategically about and not just hit the, for me, it's the X button.
I haven't really looked at any guides for this game, so I don't know if people are breaking the game and over leveling and 3-shotting a boss or whatever. But I'm just saying, in my experience in Souls games, like Dark Souls and like Elden Ring, you can like grind your ass off and then like 3-shot a boss with a certain build. Like there's builds that like totally break the game. But like in Sekiro, for example, like it doesn't matter how much you grind and everything. It's so skill based. Like you have to play the game. You can't break the game. So this game feels more like on that Sekiro level in terms of like it's more skill based than like.
But it does feel like when you die, you can use all the boss fights in my experience by and large feel fair. I did have some camera issues. Sometimes bosses are just so much bigger than you that my camera is like looking up there. I mentioned this when I played Dungeons and Hinterberg a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
But like sometimes the camera tries to lock onto an enemy. And you're trying to hit it, and the camera goes a little wild for a second because it's trying to compensate for your size versus a huge black bear wreathed in fire.
Sure.
So that can be frustrating, but I mean, I think overall this is a game that's very fair with its bosses. I've been able to. I'm not a Souls veteran by any means, so again, very good difference between me and Seb. I have my fair share of boss fights and even tough boss fights, though mostly in Kingdom Hearts 2 and 3 with the super bosses, secret bosses stuff. So I'm no stranger to boss fights, but I'm no Souls vet at all. And I've relatively found the game, with the exception of the Black Bear at the end of chapter 1, not easy, but accessible, right? Like, you know, there's a character early on, you fight a tiger with like a burning blade or whatever, double blade, Darth Maul-esque. It only took me about 3 tries. I fought the Wandering White. I think that's the secret boss of level 1.
The statue.
I don't know.
Yeah.
The statue or whatever, where you get the headbutt move from, which I've been using. I beat him in like 4 tries, I want to say. So it's not, for me personally, it's not crushing in terms of difficulty. I do think it's tough. You can't just rush in and go in blind. But as long as you're smart about things, and as long as you learn from your mistakes, I do think eventually you'll come out on top. It won't take you many, many hours. Generally speaking, there are some bosses. I'm sorry to keep bringing it up, but the end of chapter 1 boss really just threw me for a loop, because it felt like a big difficulty spike. But also you get an item from one of the bosses you beat to make fire damage largely irrelevant.
But that's what you saying that. I think you could definitely manage a Souls game now. If you can beat this game, there's no reason why you can't beat like Dark Souls 1 or 2 or 3, or like I've noticed, because an Elden Ring, like you could definitely play Elden Ring, and you would. I don't like this game is. I'm not saying this game is like way easier than or way harder than Elden Ring or anything, but if you can manage through this game, you should probably be fine playing those games, because you understand like being patient, patterns, going in ready with items and stuff like that. So you might be heading into the Souls territory. You might be finally getting into Sekiro. I wouldn't recommend to you. I know that wouldn't click with you, but I think you could do Elden Ring. I think you could handle it. This game is there's Souls games that are harder, easier than this one. So I think you should try it. If you can handle this game, it does get harder. Not like too much harder, but it does get a little harder. I'm with you in that. I only had every boss has taken me less than 5 or less tries, basically. I think the only one I really had a hard time with, like more than anything, was this mermaid guy that had like 2 phases.
Yeah,
that was only because he had 2 phases.
The fucking Zarbon knockoff.
Yeah, I thought Zarbon was what I thought of too.
Yes, absolutely. He's absolutely a Zarbon knockoff. Or Zarbon's a knockoff of him because he's from Journey from the West. But anyway, not Zarbon being from Journey to the West. You know what I mean? This character.
So, go on.
But yeah, I also had trouble with him. He beat my ass for a few rounds and stuff until I finally just pounded him into the ground the first phase, and then I barely beat him in the second phase. But yeah, even shifting, even having he was very demure, as the kids on TikTok are saying, and he had this. Although he didn't like grow into a monster, I guess he was kind of snake-like. I guess I don't know.
He's kind of like a Gorgon from God of War, like when they just
yeah. But anyway, what were you gonna say?
So these are I want to get into the criticisms. I already hit on a couple of them. So like the one I already said, the map. I wish this game had a map. I got lost at some points, but overall it was linear. My criticism was also the camera, as Dory mentioned. There's times where I get stuck in the corner, and the boss is so big, and the camera can't handle it. That's I feel like that's every Souls game, and I gave criticism to every Souls game for that. I guess that's just the nature of the gameplay of Souls games, Souls-like games. The storyline is not like, I don't think it's bad. I'm not like totally invested. I know Journey to the West to an extent, not to the extent where I know the Chinese lore like left and right. It's just not where I majored in English, and I've read a lot of global literature, but I even then I don't know, like they expect you to know like every character. They don't even like try to explain who it is. This is definitely for a Chinese audience for sure. Like It's not meant for a Western audience, which is fine. This game. It's okay if they just made a Chinese game for a Chinese audience and then just release it for the West because they know it's gonna be popular. That's totally fine to me. Because I think the storyline is like, I think it's understandable enough where it's fine. Like I think it's clearly like you're a disciple or a descendant or somebody of Wukong. Wukong fought and lost and got trapped in the rock. Right. That's very understandable. Right. and you're just collecting all his power. It's kind of like Metroid, where like Samus always like loses all her armor and power in the beginning, and then as you progress, you collect things. So you feel like a sense of progression. Because I really love the customization of like the you can craft and make food and items and armor pieces and new staffs and stuff, and you feel that sense of progression because
Yes.
every mission, like the chapter, I mean, you get like a new set of powers and stuff, so you feel like you're growing. And I love that because an action RPG is all about the progression, and if it doesn't have that, it's gonna fail. And this game does a great job with that. But yeah, the storyline is not amazing, and it expects you to know a lot of stuff. There's a lot of characters that are just like the bosses.
Just incredibly thrown in there. And I want to back up what Seb's saying too. I don't mind that a Chinese studio made something for a Chinese audience and it doesn't translate well to me. That is fine because honestly, America likes to act. Sorry, I'm going on my soapbox again. But America likes to act like it's the center of the world, and every story needs to be, orientated towards us. Journey to the West is one of the biggest stories in the world. Like China, of course, is one of the most populated countries in the world.
It's probably it's probably the most well-known Chinese story of all time.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, Dragon Ball Z, like we said, which is one of the most well-known animes of all time. Hello, back in my background right here, is loosely based on it, right? So me saying the story is silly and I don't care about it is not me going, well, Chinese, they can't make their own for their own people or whatever. Like, no, I don't care about that. It's just like I do wish they'd do a little more groundwork and a little more who is this character? I need, you know what I'm saying? I need video packages. Where are my video packages to introduce these characters? Come on, people. I need promos. I need video packages. I need managers. Anyway, sorry, I'm making wrestling references. But yeah, it gets frustrating because I'm like, I don't know who this bushy-eyed guy is. Why should I care? What are his motivations? Like, just one line. Just throw something in there.
Even
the lip syncing is bad too. While I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, I mentioned that. I recommend playing it in Chinese if possible. Like maybe like Ghost of Tsushima, playing it in Japanese. Like it makes it more like authentic, I guess. Because like I said, some of the English is fine. That I think the voice actors do a good job, but the lips don't always match because obviously English and Chinese are so different from each other. Because like first of all, China doesn't even use Chinese doesn't use letters like they use like symbols and stuff. So like it's totally different language. And I also think it's a bit weird with like the headless guy playing the guitar is like singing in Chinese and then talking in English and everybody else is English. It's just weird. Not
very off.
Very nitpicky. It is very nitpicky, but like I'm just saying, like if you want a more authentic experience, just put the game in Mandarin.
We should probably move on soon.
Yeah, we are. And so those are really all my criticisms. So like those are all like minor stuff. So like for me, this game is like 5 out of 5 because my performance is so strong. If my performance wasn't as strong, it'd be like a 4.5 or out of 5.
That's where I'm at. Yeah.
But I think it's a 5 for me because my performance has been so strong. But again, I'm in the 1% of PC gamers, and I invested in a high end PC. But yeah, I really recommend this game. Just know what you're getting into. Don't think it's like Devil May Cry. You put on easy mode and you just hack and slash everything. You have to
sorry.
You have to be prepared. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say if you don't have a high-end PC like me, I would recommend it on the PS5 just because the PS5 can handle it better. But I'd also wait for them to actually like stabilize the PS5 version because Digital Foundry just found a lot of issues with it. Not game breaking. It's not unplayable. If you really want to play the game now and you don't have a high-end PC, I do recommend the PS5 version. But again, this is a PC version first and a PS5 version second. And it's pretty clear to me, at least, why a lot of reviewers didn't get a PS5 copy because that's not the best version of this game. The best version of this game is the high-end PC version, not the PS5 version. But you can play it unbalanced, and you could get a decent experience out of it, probably better than what I'm getting on a low-end PC. But I am still enjoying myself, and it is still playable for sure. I put almost 5 hours now, and I'm in chapter 2, and then I think there's 6 chapters, so it'll probably take me around 40 hours to beat it. I want to say.
Yeah, I heard it's a 40-hour game.
Yeah.
but it's also skill based. So if you like beating
Yes.
bosses in like 1 or 2 tries, then you probably beat it faster.
And I'm not going after every secret boss. I don't care enough to do that. I'm not going after
Yeah.
every single boss either. I'd go if I find a boss, I will fight them. If I miss one, if I see a video, it's like, oh, this boss you have to fight. I'm like, unless they've got some monster upgrade that I really need to go back, then yeah. Whatever.
Yeah, I've done the same. I've done a total blind playthrough. I have not looked at like trophy guides or like side boss guides. I kind of just play. If I stumble on a side boss, I just fight it. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to beat every boss. More than likely, maybe I'll go back and replay this game down the road here because I do replay games. So
I do want to kind of play this on my PS5 again at some point. So I may buy it again, but there's the controversy stuff makes me. Good thing it's my birthday because I've gotten money, so basically I didn't really pay for this.
Yeah,
is how I think about it. But I am really tempted to buy it again when it's more stable. If it ever gets patched on PS5, I would probably be tempted to replay it just to get a better experience.
Now, just to start wrapping it up now, if Dory can get a decent or relatively solid performance on a 1650. A lot of like hardcore gamers. I'm not talking like casuals. Like the hardcore audience probably has a 20 series, 30 series. You should be fine. Like because Dory's is not. I'm not trying to like downplay. It's
more. No, it's fine. I bought it 4 years ago.
It's more
on
outdated.
Sale,
it's outdated. It's outdated. That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
Comparison, like because a lot of people have if you're a hardcore PC gamer, you probably have a 30 series nowadays because those are like those are on those you can get those for like $800 nowadays now. Like that's the norm. In the hardcore space, I'm not saying that's the norm for everybody. You get what I'm saying? All right, and then finally, this game is doing fantastic. It's the most played single player game of all time on Steam, and it already sold 10 million copies in 3 days. So this game is going to be probably one of the highest selling games, if not the highest selling game of the year. All right.
Yeah, they've made an excellent game. I think last thing I'll say. Just to kind of combine the two most important bits. I think they've made an excellent game here. I just hope the people behind the product kind of get their shit together as people because it's just not a good look for me. And all I'm going to say is I'm glad I got money and I didn't necessarily have to put $60. But on the other hand, they made such a good game that, this isn't like J.K. Rowling level for me or Quantic Dream or whatever, like David Cage or Randy Pitchford or whatever. So it's not that kind of level, but it is, it's not that far off either. So I do feel conflicted about supporting the studio. I hope they get their shit together in terms of just improving as people, because I think that's pretty much possible for everybody. I really love this game. I think it's awesome. I hope more games come out like it. I hope we get more games that are based on Journey to the West, but are a little more down to earth in terms of explaining the lore, just because I would love to know it. But the game doesn't even try, unfortunately. So, Black Myth Wukong, great game.
Awesome. So let's move on to our last topic of the night, which is Gamescom. So Gamescom, it was, it's the biggest game show in the world. It's in Germany. It's gigantic. And there's a lot of games being talked about and shown. So how I'm going to do this, structure this, so we're not jumping around a million games and really, really fast, is I'm going to read off a game, and if it's one of the games Dory put on her list, then she can talk about it, rather than us just going back and forth and listing every game that we put down. So I want to start with games that like they're smaller, and then we'll close with like the bigger games, the bigger announcements. So Dory put Backyard Sports, which I didn't know she was into, but apparently she's like, let's go. So
let's go, Pablo! The GOAT. No, I think we talked about this before though. I loved backyard soccer when I was a kid. I loved backyard soccer as a kid. I played backyard soccer on my rinky-dink PC back in the 90s. I loved that game so much. I can't tell you how many pizza parties I got, how many times I got the trophy. Loved that game to death. It's so good. If you don't know, Backyard Sports was very kind of cartoonish kind of game. It was really a small game. I don't know how well it did back then, but we are in the year of nostalgia and trying to get money from people who really miss the 90s like myself. So Yeah, backyard soccer I love so much. If they do a remake of it, which looks like they're doing all of them because it says backyard sports. I think they did baseball and football as well. I'm probably day one. I have really fond memories of that. I mean, let's get atrocious reviews, right? But yeah, I mean, everybody knows Pablo's the GOAT. Had ridiculous stats all the time. Just this chubby little Latino kid, and we all loved him. And yeah, it was a fairly inclusive game for its time too. There were a lot of black kids and just different races, and I think there was a kid even in a wheelchair, which was fucking cool, way ahead of its time in that way. So it was just a cool series. It was a cool series. It was inclusive, especially for its time.
Yeah.
And it was accessible, and it was just a lot of fun. You could do a lot of cool moves. I just thought this was exciting. It was a 50-second announcement just saying that we're back. I mean, we are so back. And we have never been as back as we are now kind of vibe.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just exciting. It's just a cool thing from my childhood that I love and I miss. And I'm really really glad they're doing it. I genuinely hope that it gets good reviews because I want to play it. If Backyard Soccer comes out as its own individual thing, I will play the heck out of it if it's good, if it reviews well.
All right, so as we're talking about, I'm gonna delete the game off the document so I can tell what we did already. The next game was Squirrel with the Gun, which I believe comes out next week. I want to say at the end of the month. Squirrel with the Gun is, as the title suggests, you play as a squirrel and you have a gun and you shoot people. Dory, are you gonna get this game when it comes out?
No. I just wanted to talk about it for a second. I think we've talked about it maybe once very briefly. I just think it's awesome this game exists. It's kind of like Goat Simulator, except if you had a gun and you were shooting at guys in business suits.
Yeah.
I have no interest in playing this game, but I just think it's funny. I just think it's cool. Also, I named myself after Squirrel Girl, so I just feel some kind of legal obligation to mention this briefly. Yeah, I just think this is fun. I think more kooky, weird games like this are always a good thing. Definitely, like I said, big Goat Simulator energy. And the trailer is funny too.
Yeah, this is very much a PC gamer game. Like I like this is like PC gamers on Steam especially love these kind of games, and I'm one of them. I'm not getting it day one, but I will definitely get it for shits and giggles. All right, moving on. Dory also put Spine, the gameplay for Spine. You want to talk about that, please?
Yeah, so it's just I'll only talk about this for a second, really.
Yeah.
But it's just a gameplay overview. This is the one where you have kind of an AI on your spine, and it reminds me a lot of Sifu. Kind of a John Wick, Matrixy vibe, very action movie vibe. It looks really cool. Reminds me of the fights in Sifu, like I said, or Daredevil, or very martial focused. It looks really cool. And I believe it's using Unreal Engine 5. I could be wrong about that. But I believe it's using a rather new engine, and it looks really good. I don't know if it plays very good, obviously, but the gameplay overview dropped at Gamescom, and that's a lot of what we'll be looking at as just some gameplay overviews of games I thought were interesting.
Yeah, this game I'm definitely into. I remember seeing it in another show, and it caught my attention, and it looks like a blast to play. I even if the storyline doesn't if the storyline sucks, if the gameplay is fire and it's just fun to play, this is a gameplay game. I'll have a blast with it. It looks like Sifu with guns. So yeah, I have that game wishlisted on Steam as well. So that's another game I'm definitely into. Gamescom had a lot of good games that I'm into. But Gamescom was more about the interviews and of games we already knew and showing us more gameplay. And another game Dory put was Kill Night, which comes out on October 3rd. Tell us about it, please.
I played the demo, actually, of this. I don't know if I ever talked about it.
No.
I played the demo. I love the graphics so much and the kind of aesthetic it's got. It's very dark, very edgelord. It's very. I wrote my Chemical Romance lyrics in my notebook in 2005, kind of era. It's really edgy, but it's cool edgy. It's genuinely cool. It looks just awesome. The gameplay I had a little bit of trouble getting into personally. I don't know why. It's kind of a twin stick shooter, and I don't usually play those, so maybe that's it. But it looks awesome, and I can't praise enough the aesthetic it has going for it. You basically play this like Eldritch Knight or some kind of like knight sent from somewhere to kill the last angel. I mean, if that doesn't sell you on the game, I don't know what will. You just really need to get your head checked, as the Beastie Boys would say. Yeah, I don't know. This game just looks cool as shit. I don't know if I'll pick it up. I'll wait for reviews. I liked the demo, but it didn't blow me away, and I had difficulty balancing all of the different statuses and guns and just gameplay mechanics. And that could have just been a me problem and not a game problem. Maybe it's just not for me. I don't know. But the game looks cool as shit. Go check out the demo. It's free on Steam, obviously. I recommend the demo to anybody who has even thought once about how this game looks awesome, because it does. But yeah, Kill Night, October 3rd. Perfect month for it. Very spooky vibes. Obviously, you're a really powerful knight, so I don't really think you're going to be running away from anything. But yeah, go check it out. It's bullet hell-esque as well, twin stick shooter, bullet hell, and you can upgrade your knight through various like points and stuff. And I did that a little bit in the demo, but again, it didn't super click with me. But that could just be a me problem. I don't know.
Oh, cool. So let's move on to a smaller game again. Let's talk about Mouse PI for Hire, which I think looks awesome. It's like it has that Cuphead vibe with the old school cartoons, first person shooter. And Dory put down that you said the aesthetic came from a discussion from BioShock. So what do you mean by that?
Yeah, so there is a developer overview or interview with IGN, which actually has Jane from Outside Xbox, I believe, on it. She's awesome. I believe she's on that one. Yeah, she is. And the guys involved kind of discuss it. And I guess there was some kind of art that they found in BioShock that, if I could be misremembering, go check out the interview if you want to double check me on this. But I believe they found some kind of art in BioShock, and it really resonated with the art director. And he was like, what if we made a whole game based on this one like art piece that they found? It was very old timey, of course. And obviously they are modeling a lot of their stuff on Betty Boop and like very classic cartoons from the 20s and 30s, Steamboat Willie and stuff. Yeah, it's really cool. It has some Metroidvania elements. Actually, there's some abilities to like upgrade your character, and like there's a grappling hook to like move around and stuff. I'm not saying it is a Metroidvania. It's largely a shooter, and it's supposed to be accessible, so you can play on easy and stuff. So I'm not saying like, it's fucking, I don't know, really tough or whatever. But
yeah.
But there's some elements to that, and there are some linear levels, but there are some open levels as well. It just looks really cool. Again, similar to Kill Night, I don't know if this will be for me, but I do like what I'm seeing. I think it looks lovely. I always love Timeless River is one of my favorite levels in Kingdom Hearts 2. And obviously, if you know anything about that, that's based on Steamboat Willie and that old kind of stop motion animation, I believe it's called. Just looks really impressive, and it doesn't do a lot they don't have to do a lot to make it look impressive, which is the nice thing. Or maybe they do, I don't know. I'm not an art director. But yeah, I recommend checking out the interview that they did with the game creators, because they go into like how they came up with the idea. It's always been the case that they wanted it in black and white. They never discussed color, so that's really cool too. They've had a very consistent artistic direction.
Awesome. So that for me, that game is probably a day one if like the reviews are good and everything. Like that game's caught my eyes like a long time ago. So I'm definitely interested in playing it. I've had it wishlisted for a long time. All right, so let's talk about another smaller game. So this game caught my eye. It was Kong. It's called Kong Survival Instinct. It is like it's a King Kong game, and it has kaiju's in it and stuff. But it's like a side scroller like shooting game. Like it remind me a lot of my friend Pedro from Devolver Games. You ever played that game before? My friend Pedro.
No, but I know about it. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, this game actually had that. Like it had that kind of like you're shooting enemies and you're dodging like these kaiju's, and it's like a side scroller.
Cool.
It totally came out of nowhere, and maybe I just haven't been paying attention, but it looked really cool. Like I'm digging the vibes. It was like a giant spider at the end, and and it had like I'm looking at the gameplay right now. and it had a cool it had some cool platforming. Like you're bashing walls, and you're bashing the floor, and you're falling through floors, and you shoot barrels, and you're fighting enemies and kicking them off the cliff, and it has like a red light like where you're aiming and stuff. So it feels like my friend Pedro and like in a King Kong game. So it's kind of random. Maybe is it a movie game? Maybe I guess or
I think it's like a sequel or spiritual successor or something to one of the movies.
yeah.
I don't know.
But it looks cool, and I will wishlist that. I don't know if I'll get it day one, but it's definitely something I'm keeping my eye on for sure. All right, moving on. Another game was Axe of Blood, which caught my eye as well. Axe of Blood was like a kung fu game. It reminded me of Sleeping Dogs. It looks like a really fight focused game, like combat heavy game, where you're fighting a bunch of enemies, doing martial arts. It reminds me of those PS2 games I used to play with like Jet Li and stuff. Dory, did you see that game?
I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah, it looks really cool. I think people are gonna have a blast with this, from what I'm seeing. I like the mix of weapons as well.
It's set in Indonesia. That's pretty cool. Yeah, it says Steam says it's a beat 'em up action third-person game which is focused on fast-paced, brutal hand-to-hand combat.
Yeah, and it has like I forget what game it was, but it has the mechanic where like the enemy's almost dead, and then you can do like a kill move. It has like the skull over their head. I want to say the Shadow of Mordor games do that. I feel like that's correct.
That sounds right. That sounds right to me.
But this game looks awesome. Like this is I wish listed it today, and this is something I'll keep my eye on. And if the storyline is awesome, because these games always, if it has an awesome like revenge story or something like that, like I'll be totally into this. So this is definitely a me game.
I'll wish list this too. This looks rad.
Yeah. So that's Axe of Blood. All right, and then they also showed. Let's see. Let's go with
Towerborn. Do you want to talk about Towerborn next?
Yeah, I was gonna talk about Towerborn. Towerborn is so the big thing with Towerborn, which also I think I've been really into. I wish listed this a while ago. It looks like it's a cartoony game made for the people that made Banner Saga, which I never played the Banner Saga games, but I heard great things about them. There's three of them. Like there's a trilogy to it. People absolutely adore like those games. They're like one of the best stories of all time and stuff. And Towerborn is like more of a cartoony, like side-scrolling beat 'em up kind of thing where you play with your friends co-op. And it's coming to Steam Early Access next month, so we actually get the early access for this game before Xbox. And there's a lot of criticism for that because Xbox fans feel like they're second-class citizens on their own platform, and because they're prioritizing Steam over Xbox, which I understand the criticism because, like, Grounded early access came to Xbox, so why can't this game? If it's basically an Microsoft published game. It doesn't affect me, of course, because I play on Steam. I don't use Game Pass and Xbox and all that. So, but I understand the criticism. I think it looks good. I'm interested in it. If Dory gets it, Dory and I definitely can play together and things like that. This game looks a lot of fun. Play with your friends. I probably not a game I would play by myself, but if you can, then do that too, of course. But it looks good. How do you feel about it, Dory?
Really into. Let's see, what is this? Action adventure. It's like a tower defense game, right?
Isn't it like a? I thought it was like a side-scrolling game. Let me look at.
Oh, you're right. You're right. I just presumed based on the name that it was a tower defense. It's called Towerborn, but it looks like it's a action adventure and exploration.
Yeah, it has that.
It's coming to early access.
It has that beat 'em up side-scrolling camera angle, and you're fighting enemies together with a partner. You're just like dodging, rolling. Yeah, this is definitely
cool.
This is the beat 'em up.
It's kind of like Castle Crashers, but like RPG.
Yeah, this is the best way to describe it. I think it's it's like Castle Crashers, like exactly.
Oh, okay, cool.
With different art style. Yeah.
I was totally wrong about this game then. Yeah, it looks neat. I don't have any like high hopes, but if it gets good reviews and you buy it, maybe if I have some extra money floating around, maybe I'll buy it too.
Yeah, although I like beat 'em ups, and you're not generally a big fan of beat 'em ups.
No, even like Shredder's Revenge, which a lot of people really liked. I was like, it's a good game, but it's like whatever.
Oh yeah, I thought that game was awesome. But yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so that's Towerborn. I don't know if I'll get it day one next, like early access. I'll probably just wait for the release. I'm not like over the moon for this game that I have to get early access for it. It's not like Hades 2 where I definitely would get it early access. As Dory did too, and put like 30-40 hours into it.
Yeah.
All right, so let's move on to Let's talk about Lost Records. So Lost Records showed the dialogue, like how the conversation system works in the game. Like Lost Records is basically, if you like Life is Strange, that kind of vibe, a narrative heavy game. Dory and I love those games.
Of course.
I'm a giant Life is Strange fan. And I think it looks very interesting. And I'm day one when this game comes out. I'm sure Dory probably is too, unless the game gets bad reviews or whatever. And
Right.
I think it takes place in the 90s or something, or at least
Yes, it takes place in the 90s. They said it's been like 27 years since the 90s, so it's modern day, but it's set in the. They're pretty much millennials as far as I understand.
yes, and like older millennials, because at this time
Yeah.
I was like 5 or 6 or whatever, probably.
Right.
Not even. I probably was like a baby.
I think it's late 90s, and they were kids, preteens, teenagers, maybe.
Okay, so they're
I don't know.
Okay, so late
Yeah,
90s.
so they seem like they're in their 30s when we start the game. You know, not when we're not doing the flashback, because they're
Yeah.
like it's 20 something years later.
Yeah.
So I think there were kids in the 90s. I don't know. I don't fucking know.
Now,
But anyway, it's set in the 90s.
Do you know like does this game have like a horror vibe? Like from what I'm
It
getting,
does. It kind of has the color purple vibe, like from H.P. Lovecraft. Or also the one where, God, I never remember what this movie's called. The one where the kids find the body when they all that 80s movie where they all find the body and
Stand By Me.
Yeah, Stand By Me. I think it's Stand By Me.
Yeah,
I don't know.
it is.
But anyway, yeah. So it does give me some horror vibes. I don't quite understand what's happening in the plot.
That's what I'm saying.
But I presume. But I presume as you go along, it'll become more and more clear. But I'm very interested in this game, and I love what I'm seeing.
Yeah, although like some of I hope the animation's not janky, because like it looked like she was sliding across the. Like she was talking to a character and she was kind of sliding across the camera. I don't know if she was on a skateboard or not, but like it looked. I hope they missed the janky part in their trailer, but I think it looks great.
It says you film your summer of 1995, so it's mid 90s.
Okay.
And then 27 years later, so it does look like they weren't millennials. They were probably maybe even their Gen Xers.
I think, yeah, they're Gen Xers because they would be like born in the 80s.
Yeah, because they look like they're teenagers in the 90s. So that would put them at like. Yeah, they're probably now in their 40s or something. I don't know.
Yeah, the point is, they're probably like late millennials, if anything. I was too. 1995, I was too.
Yes.
Anyway, I think it looks good. I'm curious on the storyline. The storyline makes or breaks these kind of games, right? If the storyline is not great and the mystery doesn't work, the whole game falls apart, kind of thing. This is one of those exceptions where gameplay doesn't really matter.
Right.
More than anything, it's more the story. And sometimes they're hit or miss. Like sometimes the Life is Strange games that are not as good as the best ones are usually because the storyline is not as interesting. So we'll see. This is day one for me. I love these kind of games, and I love the environment. I like how pretty it looks, and the characters look good.
So it is so pretty. It looks so nice.
Yeah,
I love the art direction.
And I love I always love that neon purple look, that vibe, like the noir kind of vibe, like the Wolf Among Us does as well. I really like that. So I'm totally into this game. All right. Speaking of narrative games, also they showed Life is Strange Double Exposure. We got a whole like gameplay overview. So you can switch between the timelines, and Dory put that remind her of Medium, like so you can jump between two different.
And what I mean by that is, like, remember when the Medium came out, they were like, you can switch between two realities seamlessly, right? They were really touting that as like the big deal.
Yeah.
And that's what that it gives me vibes of that. I mean, ideally the story's a lot better than the Medium was, but I digress.
Yeah, so I understood what you meant. It was because the Medium did that pretty good. I think that if there's one good thing about Medium, was that like I think it did a pretty effective job mixing up like the two different dimensions and having you have to figure out like
they touted it for a reason. It was somewhat impressive at the time because not a lot of people were using. I believe this was before Rift Apart, right? So not a lot of people were using that PS5 mechanic that they used for different realities.
And then you noted that there's accessibility options.
Yeah, so it can get kind of confusing when you're going through different timelines, and even Max herself can actually get confused. But you can. There's I don't remember exactly what they said, but there in the accessibility options, there's like a red dot or some kind of marker that you can put on that will remind you, hey, this remark wouldn't make any sense in this context because so-and-so hasn't even met so-and-so in this timeline.
Yeah.
That's what I got from the creators anyway. I could be misquoting them, but that seems to be what's going on, just so it helps you keep straight. But you don't have to. You can be totally confused, and Max can say the most off-the-wall shit like, hey, how was like your date with Elliot? And then like the Tim's like, I don't know who the fuck's Elliot. And you look like a silly goober. So I don't know. It also is weird because I realized this too, and then I got backed up by other people in the comments too when I read them. It's like, didn't Max learn from the first game that you can't like undo time and you can't save your best friend from dying? Like, I don't know. This seems I don't know how they're going to make this work because it just seems like Max is kind of regressing as a character. I mean, I don't know. You could do it like she never got over Chloe, and so she's just doubled down. But I don't know. I felt like the whole ending of the first one was to accept loss, and this feels like she's not accepting loss. On the other hand, it's like, well, you can't fucking do a game if nobody dies, right? I guess.
Well,
I don't know.
By the ending where you save the town over Chloe, like anyway, like
right.
if she didn't learn her lesson, if you ran away with Chloe,
right? So they did say very confusingly. We talked about this before that both of the endings are canon to the timeline, but I don't know how that's true. So
it's probably gonna ask you in the beginning which one did you pick. I personally sacrificed Chloe because even though I love Chloe, she was my favorite character in Life is Strange, the whole series. That like I felt like the whole point of the game was for Max to learn that like you're not supposed to mess with the timeline, right?
Right.
And you, it's not. I mean, I always pick the good choice, of course. I know you're supposed to have a loved one, but I can't kill a bunch of people to save somebody I love, and even then, like Chloe was their friend, but like they didn't really know, like they didn't talk to each other for a long time, and they got back together as friends, or even a couple maybe, but they weren't like, I'm gonna kill a bunch of people and for Chloe, in my opinion anyway. Like they didn't know each other long enough, like that kind of thing, where they didn't even talk to each other for a long time and stuff. So that, but I don't want to get into all that, but I just think it's weird that to do that, and I also think, as much as I love seeing Max, it is kind of odd. I feel like her character arc was fine, like it ended, and then we didn't need like, Max to come back, kind of thing. Like it's not a big deal to me. I'm just saying, like I think Life is Strange 1 had a complete story,
right?
So the sequel is not really necessary. And then
I was very excited initially, but now I'm like, why are we bringing her back? What's the point? I agree with you. That felt like her story was completed. I also felt like, since we're on the subject of her as a character, her voice actress, I don't know if I presume they got somebody else.
No,
it's been a long.
No, I think it's the same character. It sounds like her.
You think it's the same one? Okay. She sounds off to me, and I don't know if it's just I don't like her voice anymore, or she's doing something else, or the voice actress. I don't know. I don't know what it is, but she sounds weird to me, and I didn't like it. I didn't think it was terrible, but it just sounded weird. And maybe it's just because I haven't played Life is Strange in a long time. But it just sounded off to me. Maybe it's just the trailer. Maybe it's me. Maybe it's Maybelline. I don't really know. But the trailer was weird for me and gave me a lot more questions than it gave me answers. But cool gameplay stuff. I hope they can narratively justify the sequel. That's really what I want to see. I want to see some justification. If you're going to fucking get my nostalgia glands all going, then at least give me some kind of reasoning why we're bringing Max back, why she's trying to do the same thing she did for Chloe. I mean, if Seb and I, our experiences, our choices are canon, the ones where you don't sacrifice the town, then it just doesn't make sense why Max, to me, it doesn't seem to make sense why Max would do this. So I don't know. I just need some narrative justification. I'm not saying they can't do it, but I think it is an uphill battle.
Yeah. Like, it's the same voice actress. I know what you mean. It could be the way the trailer is cut, and but like she's an adult now, so like giving her like the same kind of like teenager voice,
right?
I guess she's trying to make her sound older, but it doesn't work. I don't know. I had to play the game before I can really say, but I will say that this is made by Deck 9, and Deck 9 has made like they made some quality Life is Strange games. Like, of course, like before this one, I really like, and True Colors I would argue is the best one in the series.
Yes.
Even though I adore probably the first game the most because I played it the most, and I also like the characters more. I think True Colors objectively is the best in the series, and I think they did. And I know the remaster of One in Before the Storm was criticized, but like I think that's the I think that's a I liked it. I didn't mind it. I know people argued play the original over the remaster, but I think the remaster is just the most accessible way to play it. Those games. But so I think that the Expanse was okay. So I think Deck Nine. I think they had some issues behind the scenes. Which I won't get into. They didn't really laid off the staff,
Yeah.
and they had a toxic work culture and all that stuff. But
Yep.
but I'm not gonna get into that. I'm just saying like I with their track record, I think this game will be at least pretty good. I don't think this game's gonna be disappointing. I think it's gonna be good, be pretty good. All right, so moving on. Let's talk about so Starfield Shattered Space is coming out next month, I believe. It's DLC, but in this case, we got like a reveal about a vehicle. You can drive a vehicle instead of walking across the planet, which was a big criticism of the game. Also, my criticism as well. Where this game it had a lot of walking for a game where you explore planets. It's like you guys can fly you guys can go in hyperspace and fly across the galaxy or galaxies, but you can't give the character a vehicle. Okay. Anyway, that's that. I am interested in the DLC. I have the premium edition on Steam, so I automatically get the DLC. If you played it on Game Pass, you have to buy the DLC, I believe. So maybe maybe I'm wrong. I don't know if I usually in Game Pass is a history. You have to buy the DLC. They don't usually make that free, but we'll see. Dory, you have any interest in playing the DLC? I know because you like the game, but you weren't like blown away by
I
it. I think
I
it's
don't
7 out of
care. I
10, right?
don't.
Right.
Well, I mean, I literally have a rating for the specific rating I gave Starfield, which is the Starfield 8 out of 10. It's like a really really shiny pretty 7. That's got like a lot of lip gloss and sparkles on it. Yeah, no, I mean, I like a lot of what Starfield tried to do, but there was a lot of parts about it that I found frustrating. I don't care about this. I listed it because it's important to note Starfield was a big game and Xbox was pushing it. So I feel like DLC feel like some kind of duty of mine to say, hey, this is happening, but I couldn't care less. I'm so disconnected from Starfield at this point. It feels like it happened a million years ago to me, and I have no interest in continuing that universe. I'm not saying it's a terrible game. It's just for me, it's floated by. I've moved on with my life. I'm there. Put it to you this way: it's coming out in what, September? There are like 3 other games in September I'd rather play than this DLC. So I will focus on those games, and other people can enjoy Starfield. I almost said Stardom. I was thinking about a wrestling company in Japan. But anyway, so yeah, I hope people do enjoy it. I think it's cool that they invented Mass Effect's Mako. That's really great for them. That was sarcasm. I don't know. I can't talk about Starfield without being salty. Just because I like the game, but I have like such a weird relationship with it. But yeah, that's the Starfield 8 for you. I hope it's great, and I hope the DLC brings a lot of people back. But from that interview I saw with the creator, it didn't give me a lot of hope. He was saying some concrete things, but a lot of it was very vague and didn't give me any real inspiration that anything would be. The big problem with Starfield, of course, is that there's just a whole lot of nothing for most of this space, and then there's one big area for you to do stuff, and then once you're done with that, it's just like the whole place is done. And that's not even like including all of the randomization.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, the randomization that happens where it's just the same place over and over again. I put a lot of hours into Starfield. I put like 40, 50, 60 hours in. I put a lot of time in Starfield, so I know what I'm talking about, generally speaking. But it's so I don't know. Just whatever about this. I just felt like it was important to note.
I called it menu the game.
Yes, God, I hated that.
I was in the menu more, and then fast travel. The whole game was me fast traveling everywhere and going through my menu like half the time. And it got really jarring because I have a widescreen monitor, and the game was not built for widescreen. So every time I went to the menu, it would give me black bars on the sides. It was very, very annoying. But I thought it was a good game. I didn't think it was a great game. That's what I think. Dory's grade is accurate. I probably a little higher on it, but it was still like a 7.5, maybe an 8 for me.
Right.
And that's largely because I think the side missions were really awesome.
I also felt like the story really picked up at the end, and that kind of redeemed it for me too. I was really at like like 7 out of
but
10 or a 3.5,
I think
3.75 or
I
something.
think I really I don't care about the main mission at all. It was the side
Yeah,
stuff that made that game good for
for
me.
sure, for sure. I mean, you could literally dress up as a fucking alien and
Yeah.
terrorize tourists.
I got
I don't think video games get much better than that.
I got really tired of going to what was a temple and then like floating into a
Oh my
thing. That
god.
was like 6 times or whatever. It was just like who I'm
Ugh,
like
the
who
same fucking cinematic, the same fucking anime. Whose idea was that? It was so boring. Like,
which is
stop.
but I generally Fallout and like Elder Scrolls like the side stuff are always better than the main stuff, but like
Yes,
but
correct.
even then the main stuff in those games are better than
Right.
than
I agree.
Starfield. All right,
Yes.
I almost said Starfall. I don't know for whatever reason. All right, let's move on. Let's talk about so these are gonna be a little more faster. Marvel Rivals. This comes out in December and 6th. It's a great. Personally, I think that's a great time to put that there. It's free to play, and you get all the heroes at the same time. So you just get everything, and it's free to play. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Now I'm definitely gonna play it. I heard a lot of good things about this game,
Yes.
and
I
it's
have
free
as
and
well.
it's free to play. So why not try it?
Right.
And then they revealed Captain America and Winter Soldier in it. I will definitely play this in December 6th. There's only because December. The only other thing the only other game I know that's coming out in December is Indiana Jones,
I was about to say, yeah.
which is only a couple of days after that. And Indiana Jones is coming to Xbox and PC in December, and we got like the gameplay of it and everything. There's a lot of exploration in this game. This is from Machine Games, people that made Wolfenstein. And there's a lot of it's like Uncharted. I know Uncharted is based on Indiana Jones. There's a lot of puzzles, and it's I think Dory, you did the notes for this, right?
Right. I did.
So do you want to?
Yeah. What I was most surprised by is that there's some Hitman elements in it. You can dress up as members of the clergy. You can dress up as members of the villain's organization and seek into areas you're not supposed to get into. There are some stealth mechanics in this game. I could not tell you how well they work, but the people involved from IGN were pretty excited about it and seemed to think that it worked pretty well from what they saw. They did not get hands-on with it, so they can't say how it felt or whatever, but it looked pretty good to them. So yeah, weird, some Hitman stuff. I guess also there are some original developers from people who did Riddick, Butcher's Bay, those movie tie-in games that are surprisingly good, or were surprisingly good back when they came out. And there were some stealth elements there as well. So I think it's largely based on that, but people see it as Hitman because Hitman is the most popular stealth game right now.
Yeah.
Because it's pretty much the only stealth game right now. Relative to what we used to have anyway. What was Splinter Cell and Thief and everything else.
This is movie accurate because Indiana Jones likes to disguise himself. So
correct.
So it makes sense. I'm really into this game. This is day one for me. I'm a big Indiana Jones fan. I grew up with these movies. I watched them a million times. I was always a big LucasArts fan, so I was always into Star Wars and Indiana Jones. And I'm really into this. This is day one for me. But the big go ahead.
I was going to say, sorry to be continuing the line of negativity. This is a game that's not really for me. I don't really care about Indiana Jones, and the gameplay hasn't moved me in any particular way. I even tried playing Wolfenstein, the one that's supposed to be like really good. I forget what it's called, New Blood or
New Order,
whatever. It's
the first
New
one.
Order, yeah. And I just wasn't very moved by it, but and I know it's supposed to be awesome, so I don't know. I also didn't have an Xbox controller at the time, so I do want to give it a fair shake at some point.
Play it on Steam on mouse and keyboard. It's on sale for like $4, $5 all the time.
Oh, nice.
So I will try it there.
But yeah, I've never really played a machine games, and I've never played Riddick, and I've never I didn't really enjoy the one game I did play from them. And Indiana Jones as a property is just not something that really interests me. I tried to rewatch the first movie, and I think Kim and I quit half an hour through. I just didn't find it very interesting.
That's crazy.
I know.
Like the first movie is like legitimately considered one of the greatest movies of all time. So it's like
I know. Hey, look, we tried the Goonies and we didn't like that either. So I mean,
but the thing is, overall, like the big news was it's coming to PS5 in early 2025, and that was a shitstorm online. We're not going to get into that because we talked about Xbox and PlayStation enough in this podcast, but like about how, like, you know, the decisions they've made and stuff. I think, but the only quick thing I'll say is it doesn't affect me. I'm getting on Steam anyway, so who gives a shit? But the Xbox brand is not dying. I'm not actually. I come from a different place because I'm not an Xbox gamer and not tied to the platform. I understand the criticism that they feel like second class citizens on their own platform, and it seems like they're abandoning the console. I just don't see them getting rid of Xbox. Like, it feels like the easy answer. Oh, they're just gonna get rid of Xbox. They don't care about it anymore. Who cares about sale? Most of their subscribers on Game Pass are on Xbox. So if they canceled the console, where are all those subscribers going? They're not going to go to PC because consoles and PC gamers are two different people, two different audiences.
Right.
A lot of people prefer just having the box and plugging it in and turning it on, and that's it, right?
Exactly.
They don't want to.
Even I prefer that. I'm largely a PC player, and I still prefer when I can to play bigger games on consoles. Like, I only play Black Myth on PC first because Steam has a better refund policy than PS5. And what if I fucking hated the game and couldn't get my $60 back? Now, of course, I love it, but yeah.
Even then, like, of course, like, my PC, like, it's usually plug and play for me. Like, 95% of the time, my games work as soon as I download it, and
right. I'm pretty, I'm usually good most of the time unless it's a really high end game like Black Myth.
Yeah, but I've had plenty of times, not plenty, but like a good amount of times where it's like a game like Evil Within or something, or New Vegas doesn't run on my computer because my computer's just too advanced for it, or the monitor doesn't click with it, or you have to do settings and alter things and all that. You don't have to do it with PlayStation or Xbox. You kind of just put the game in, and you have to download it, update it, and all that. But it works like 99% of the time. So Xbox is not going anywhere. I don't think this spells doom. But I'm pretty sure all of their games are coming to PlayStation at some point. At the very least, all of Bethesda's games and the ZeniMax games are coming to PlayStation. Like, because they've been a third party company for a long time. They have a giant audience on PlayStation. It just makes no sense not to put Doom, Indiana Jones, Wolfenstein, I don't know, Prey, Elder Scrolls on PlayStation, or Starfield, right? Starfield will, right. I guarantee you, Starfield will come to PlayStation next year. So Xbox gamers just kind of either suck it up, switch to PlayStation if they're that pissed, or just enjoy the game on Game Pass. Like, if you're already a Game Pass subscriber and you're gonna get the game day one anyway, what's the issue? Like, it doesn't, like, I could understand if Indiana Jones was coming to PlayStation only, and like you didn't give it to your Game Pass subscriber, like that. I understand that, but you're getting the game basically for free, paying a subscription. So what's the issue? The brand is not getting devalued. It's just the market is changing now. So I know people are gonna disagree with that, but I come from a different place now that I'm on Steam. Like, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, I just want to back up very quickly what Seb's saying. I think this conversation is blown out of proportion. Personally, I understand where people are coming from. I do agree that PC is consoles are treated as second class citizens, or whatever you want to say, compared to PC players. But I think you got to remember what Microsoft is. Microsoft was first and foremost a PC company, not a console company. They always are going to be. And so they're always going to focus more on those PC people than the console people. And I think a lot of it is like multi-platform and more people getting access to me. I'm always going to defend that. Always going to think it's a good thing. For me, also, I don't care because I'm not buying the game probably. I mean, unless it gets like 9s and 10s, I'm not going to buy it.
Well,
but it is on Game Pass though, right?
Yeah, it's going to be on Game Pass. Would you try it on Game Pass though? Like, if
it got good reviews, I would try it. I'm not going to like stick my nose up at it. I'm not saying I'm better than it or whatever. If it gets like 8s and 9s, yeah, I will probably try. I forgot it was coming to Game Pass. Yeah, I'll probably try it if it gets good reviews. But I need like really solid reviews to like win me over, because I'm just not super invested in the franchise, so that them doing this just doesn't really matter to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think the console's going anywhere. And it's important to remember Xbox hasn't been good since what, the 360? like Xbox has not been doing better, or I don't even think Xbox 360 was doing better, but you know what I mean. Like Xbox hasn't been seriously competing with PS2 since I was in high school. So I mean, like that's
Even
like
yeah. Even
that's
the generation where they 360 was kicking PS3's ass, the PS3
right.
eventually outsold it at the end.
Exactly. It's just they've never been a serious competitor to PlayStation. And I'm not like that means Sony's better or whatever, right? I'm not a console warrior. I don't give a shit about that. They're all major corporations who don't give a shit about us. Like I don't care.
Yeah.
But like it's just undisputable that Xbox has never done as well. It's always been a second class kind of console compared to you can always feel like the indie
Well,
underdog when you're
it's
backing them as opposed to
it's
Sony.
always been the third wheel. Nintendo and
Yes.
PlayStation have always been the big two.
Right, exactly.
So
So I don't think this matters. I don't think this has ever mattered. So as long as Microsoft keeps making money off those consoles, they are going to keep doing it. Now, will they focus as heavily on it? Maybe over the years they will become less and less focused and more focused on PC until eventually the console barely gets any support. I don't
yeah.
know. I doubt it. It is possible, of course, but I don't think that's what's happening. I just think what's happening is they want more money, so they're putting it on more platforms. I really think that's it. I don't think it's not that deep. Right, this is a pond, not a lake, not a fucking ocean.
Yeah.
It's not happening. Like the Xbox is not going away. They're not canceling it. I could be wrong, of course, but I think that would be stupid. And as stupid as some of the decisions Xbox has made lately, even I don't think that they're like capable of this level of stupidity of like canceling a console.
Yeah, that's not gonna happen. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, obviously the Xbox One or whatever it is, the Xbox Series X and S hasn't done super well. But it's not like bottom of the barrel stuff, right? It has some stuff on it, and it's nice to have Game Pass on something that's not a PC.
Plus,
the nicest thing I can say about it. But.
Plus, like, if you're an Xbox gamer, like if you're just a console gamer, right? Like a lot of people just like go home from work and click a button and play a game, right? Like we're talking like the hardcore space, like people are panicking, but like if you're just like we're talking about the average gamer, they're going home from work, they're turning on their Xbox and they don't even know what's going on. They just see, Game
Right.
Pass, Indiana Jones, I'll download it. That's it. So it doesn't.
Exactly.
It's not gonna affect anything. All right, let's move on. So
Yeah.
we talked about this topic enough in the last last 20 episodes. We've hit on Xbox so much. All right, a little faster. Reanimal looks awesome. It's from Tarsier Studios, the people that made Little Nightmares. It basically looks like Little Nightmares 2.5. Basically, it looks very similar to Little Nightmares. And Dory, have you played Little Nightmares?
No, I have not.
Like, I would recommend those games to you. But I know you're not a big fan of like Limbo or like Inside kind of gameplay, like the side scrolling.
Not really.
But those games are not like those in the sense of like, the puzzles and stuff. They're more like very linear focused, where it's just like you're sneaking and you're dodging enemies and stuff. I strongly recommend you try Little Nightmares 1 and 2. They're usually on sale pretty cheap. So if like this October, if you want to play like a horror game, like that's only like 3-4 hours long or whatever, I think you should give Little Nightmares a try. So I'll just combine Reanimal with Little Nightmares 3 because they showed both. This is day one for both these games. I love Little Nightmares. It's one of the best horror indie series. If you're a horror fan, I can't recommend these enough. The atmosphere is incredible. Like those games have one of the best atmospheres you can have in a video game. It really is creepy. It does horror really well. It does a lot of unique enemy types, and the platforming is really fun. The storyline is interesting. It's really dark, and it's not afraid to. It doesn't pull any punches. Like it's not afraid of killing children or turning children into like mushroom people, if I remember correctly, or something like that. It's pretty violent, and you liked Brable, didn't you? You beat Brable.
What was it called?
Was it called? Was it Brable? Was that game with the? Wasn't it Brable, the Mountain King or something?
No, Bramble.
Bramble.
Yes, Brable. I was like, "Are you in Adventure Time? Brable's Fables?"
I was forgetting.
Brables.
It's something like that. But anyway.
No, it's fine. I'm just teasing. But yes, I did like Bramble. I thought it was a pretty good game. All right, I think.
If you like that, then that's Little Nightmares.
Okay, cool.
So please, I would definitely recommend that. All right, so Reanimal looks awesome. That's day one. It captures the spirit of Little Nightmares, and Little Nightmares 3 also comes out. So yeah, definitely recommend that. Let's move on. All right, so Dying Light, the Beast. So I at first I thought it was DLC for Dying Light 2, but apparently it's a. I guess I'm gonna guess that it was originally a DLC, and then they realized, it's a 20-hour game. Let's just make a small game like Miles Morales kind of thing, where it's just do a side. Let's just do
They fucking lost legacy themselves.
Yeah.
They pulled a lost legacy.
Which is fine because Lost Legacy was a good game, and Miles Morales was a good game. No, it wasn't.
Yes.
It was a good game. It wasn't like Uncharted.
Well, Miles Morales was great. Yeah, Lost Legacy was I had some issues with it, but it was a good game. It wasn't. It
I still think it was a
bad.
good game. Yeah, but either way, this is a 20-hour game. It's smaller. I hope it's not full price. That would be stupid. But if it's relatively priced well, I'm into it. I love the Dying Light games. They're amazing games. Dory, have you played Dying Light?
I have not. I never got into them. Should I?
Yes, they're one of the best zombie games. There's a lot of it's a parkour game, right? You're jumping across buildings and you're getting constantly chased by zombies that can also climb buildings. It's very heart pumping. I recommend you try the series. It's pretty cheap now. I would just jump into the second game at this point. Although
That's what I was thinking.
Although the first game holds up pretty well, like as well. So I beat the first and second one like pretty close in the same month. I really loved it. I think you'll like it, but you're generally not like a first person fan, so I don't know. But
yeah, I mean there are exceptions, but usually those are like narrative games, not action games.
Yeah, so I think they're really fun games. The gameplay is fun.
But I did love Resident Evil 7 and 8, so I don't know.
Yeah, although this is more like a sandbox, like you can like drop kick zombies and stuff. But
well, now you're just selling me on the game.
Yeah, so basically, you fight like regular zombies. They're like that are on the ground and stuff, and you jump across buildings and stuff. And it has a lot of narrative, like storyline. It has a lot of dialogue and stuff. And then at nighttime, the zombies like you got like the super zombies that like run full speed and jump across buildings, and they constantly chase you. So it's very dangerous to go outside at night. Hence why it's called Dying Light.
Of course, it's dangerous to go alone and take this.
Yeah, so it's really cool. I would try it out, the second game,
the sequel at least. Yeah,
it's on sale. All right,
I did hear a lot of issues with the first one, so yeah, if I did play it, I would play the sequel.
Yeah, the second game has issues too, but even the first game it has issues, but it holds up really well. The gameplay the gameplay is strong. All right, and I would also recommend Dead Island 2 to you as well.
Right, yeah, that one I was definitely interested in.
Yeah, that's on Steam now too. All right, so moving on, Crimson Desert. I won't go too much into detail. It looked a little janky, but I was into it. So this is a single player game made by Pearl Abyss, which is the same people who made Black Desert Online. So this is like a Korean developer, I think. And it says it's a ambitious open world game where you play as Cliff, who's a Viking protagonist, and in a bloody battle between ultraviolet clans who do stuff like swing axes around, and the combat was a mix between Breath of the Wild and Dragon's Dogma 2. I see that, yeah. And then the character got beat up like in many different ways. He got dosed with gasoline and set on fire. Like the guy who did the preview said like he got thrown off a cliff. There was like a lot of funny ways that the character died. Like it was meant to be like that kind of game. Like it was like goof. Like it's serious, but it's like goofy in a way, a goofy fantasy game, action game. Did you see that game at all?
I didn't. I saw the thumbnail and I went by it.
Yeah, like it didn't. The visuals don't look great, but
I've never heard a combination of gameplay that turns me off more than Dragon's Dogma 2 plus Breath of the Wild. As soon as you said that, I was like, I'm never touching this game ever in my life.
I know what they mean. I think it was like because your character finally, when something happens to your character, you kind of turn like a rag doll and you like roll down a cliff. Yeah. Like all of a sudden, all of a sudden you're just walking like peacefully down the road. All of a sudden, a griffin just comes and hits you.
I fucking hate that. But that's funny.
Like a dragon just comes out of nowhere and blows up the whole bridge, and you have to. Your character drowns in the river. Like that happens in Dragon's Dogma. Right. You're just minding your business. Yes. All of a sudden, a fucking dragon just flies in and burns the bridge, and you die.
It happens.
It's funny.
It is funny. It is absolutely funny. I don't like playing that kind of game, but I like
it's fun watching it. Yeah. All right. So this is not a game, but the Amazon Prime they showed the Secret Levels trailer. The people what's that movie that was called Love and Robots on
Yes,
Netflix.
Love, Death, and Robots or
Love
something
Death,
like
yeah,
that.
Love Death and Robots. So this comes out on December 10th, and a lot of December stuff this year. Um, it showed a bunch of games like that they're focusing on, which was Armored Core, Concord, Crossfire, Dungeons and Dragons, Exodus, Honor of Kings, Mega Man, New World, Pac Man, different PlayStation studios, including Ghost of Tsushima and God of War, Sifu, Spelunky, The Outer Worlds, and Unreal Tournament. I was like really impressed by the trailer. I was like, "Is that Sifu? Is that Kratos? Like, what am I looking at?" I'm definitely gonna watch this. I have Amazon. 'Cause I watch The Boys, and I'm definitely into this. Because you have Amazon Prime, you get video with Amazon Prime, and I use Amazon a lot. And I'm totally into this. This looks awesome. Yeah, it's just eye candy, right? Like, Dory, I know you don't have Amazon, but like, would you watch this if you
The
did?
trailer. I saw some of the trailer. It looked cool. I'm not gonna watch it, but it looked cool.
Yeah. So the big thing was it was Kratos. I was like, oh my god, is that Kratos? I was
Yeah.
just like, okay. I hope it's more than just like a compilation of like quick like CGI moment. I want like an actual. If they gave us me like 7 minutes of Kratos doing something with like Atreus or something, that'd be
Yeah.
badass. Like I just don't want like a montage like that, just because then that's just a CGI cutscene that I've seen 1,000 times. Nothing.
Right.
Give me something a little more substance than that. So we'll
I
see.
haven't seen Love, Death, Robots, so I can't really speak on it, but I do believe that they usually do full episodes.
Yeah,
So it would surprise me if it was just a compilation or montage or something.
yeah, because that's a lot of franchises to do. So I'm assuming this is a series.
Yes, I believe it is a series. Love,
Yeah,
Death, and Robots was a series. I'm not saying they're one for one doing what they did with
yeah,
Love, Death, and Robots,
yeah,
but I would imagine it would be something similar.
yeah. All right, so the last three things are like the big ones I think of the whole show. The first
Right.
one was Borderlands 4 being announced finally. Kind of weird timing considering the movie was a horrendous bomb.
I would not be surprised if they timed the release of that movie, which they knew would be a stinker, close to Gamescom, so they could immediately announce Borderlands 4
That
and
is
say,
100% what
what's
happened.
that over there? We don't care.
That's 100% what happened.
Yes.
But Borderlands is a giant series. Every game is sold a lot of copies. Like it sold the whole series as a whole sold 77 million copies. So it is
Yeah.
a gigantic.
It's bought Randy Pitchford a lot of USBs.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I as much as I don't like Randy Pitchford, I think Borderlands is a great series and I love it overall. I didn't
Yeah.
like the third game as much. I thought it was disappointing because I thought it went for the millennial humor too much,
Yeah.
and it wasn't funny at all. It was too try hard. Like I'm a millennial.
I did not even like it from the trailers.
Yeah, like if I'm a millennial, I want like I can't afford housing, depressing memes. I don't want cringy like TikTok memes. Like that's more Gen Z, I guess. And then
Right,
even then
exactly.
that's cringe. It's like it felt like a Randy Pitchford 45-50-year-old wrote it. Like this is what the kids are into.
It's absolutely that "Hello, how do you do, my fellow kids" meme that
Yeah.
goes around.
Like-
That's actually itself old by now.
It's like dabbing or doing the stanky leg in 2024. It's like
Oh my
the
God.
kids are still into this, right? From something from
Yeah.
2016.
Kids still floss, right? They do the floss.
Yeah,
They do flossing.
because these things came out like 12 years ago, and like people still
Yeah.
this still associated with today. It's not really.
Just call me Negative Nancy because I don't care about Borderlands anymore.
Yeah.
I don't like Randy Pitchford. I do love. I will say give some positivity because I don't want to be totally negative about this. I'm happy for people who like Borderlands. But I love Borderlands 2. I think that was a great game.
It's the best one.
I really enjoyed it. Yes, I really enjoyed what I played. I played Tales of the Borderlands, which I also thought was a great game. I actually did a stream of it, and I have some clips of it on my YouTube channel, and very funny stuff happened. But other than that, I have no interest in the series anymore. They could make one of the greatest games of all time, and I would scoff and move on with my life. I just think their style of humor is too edgy, too contrarian, too try hard, like Seb said. I started getting fed up with it even before Borderlands 3 came out, just based on like internet reactions and discourse and stuff that I was seeing and found that I was agreeing with more and more.
Yeah.
Even Borderlands 2, which I think is a great game, I think some of the humor doesn't hold up for me anymore personally. I'm not saying that means it's a bad game or it's objectively terrible or offensive or something. Just for me personally, I've kind of outgrown that kind of humor, and I just don't think it's my cup of tea anymore.
Don't be surprised. Don't be surprised if they start going for like the Skibbity toilet and like Sigma.
Dude, at summer camp, the fucking kids wanted me to play Skibbity Toilet, and I finally fucking relented, and I played it for like 20 seconds, and I was like, God, this is what it feels like to be old, because I don't understand this at all. I don't get why it's funny. This is just fucking stupid and terrifying.
You finally reached that stage.
I've reached that stage where it's like, I don't get why the fuck this is funny. This is stupid. It's not even funny. It's just dumb.
If you wanna know what it was like to teach middle school kids, that's pretty much it. Skibby, are you Sigma? Are you Sigma?
No, they all said that, and I went through like a couple of weeks of like, is Sigma a swear? Are they trying to say suck my or something?
Are you probably looking it up like on?
Yes, I had to kind of look it up because I didn't look it up. Eventually, just asked somebody. I was like, "Is that?" I even told kids stop saying that because I thought it was like a swear or like.
Yeah, it's like
obviously I know alpha, omega, beta, sigma, whatever.
Yeah, it's like that.
But it was like, why aren't you guys saying alpha? Or no, actually, I don't want them to say alpha because of the people in that space. But say omega. I don't know. Kenny Omega's cool. I don't fucking know. Whatever. Yeah. I'm old.
It will die out and then be a new thing on TikTok. All right. 2 more games. Avowed. So Dory wrote a whole thing about Avowed.
Yeah, I did.
You want me to read it, or do you want to?
I'll go into it. I don't mind. Go ahead. So this was exciting. I'm actually more excited about Avowed than I was before. I can finally be positive. So some Avowed hands-on stuff. Very positive reviews from it. There was a 32-minute demo. If you don't mind people talking over gameplay, and I do, so I didn't watch it, but I did watch the 8-minute summary of IGN talking about what they loved about Avowed. And the combat feels good and responsive. Enemies react as if you would expect when they get hit, so that's nice. But of course, the most important thing is that there are some modifications to be made because Garrus's VA is back. Let's go! But I'm very excited about that. The art style is very pretty, fits the Pillars of Eternity style. For me personally, the combat really reminded me of Elder Scrolls or Oblivion. Skyrim, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
They're first person. You're swinging a lot. I don't know. It just gave me those vibes.
Well, they made Outer Worlds, so they did that before.
Right. So you can command your party members to do attacks through a radial menu. At least if you're using a gamepad. Mages had 1 base attacks. You could shut a book and do a big AOE attack, which was really fucking cool. You can be a barbarian. There was a 3rd class, but IGN didn't elaborate on what it was. I presume it's a rogue or an archer or some shit. I don't know.
Yeah.
Combat seemed challenging. Balancing gear, attacks, and health can be difficult, but seems rewarding. You can spec out your character with a 2nd weapon. So yes, you can dual wield wands if you want to. Choices matter in this game. I know, everybody. Big shocker. In a Obsidian game, did I say BioWare earlier? I meant Obsidian. An Obsidian game, the choices matter. Garrus's VA is there, and I know he did BioWare, but now he's in an Obsidian game, so that's really cool. And yes, you can be an asshole to people. So somebody's like, "Hey, I don't want to die a virgin," and you're like, "Wow, that sucks. I'm not wasting my potions on you," and then just let him die. So you can be a total asshole. Of course, I'm not going to do that because then that would haunt me for the rest of my life. Anyway, obviously video games cause violence in real life. This looked really cool, and the gameplay looks good, and the lore looked good, and the choices look good. I don't know what the hell is going to happen with this game in February when it comes out. It did get delayed, February 2025. I'm excited. I hope for good things.
Yeah, I'm really into it. Of course, I love Obsidian. Other games are fantastic.
Obsidian almost never misses.
I had issues with the FOV. I have to look at the gameplay of it because I felt like it was too far out, or was it too close or something like that. I have to look at it again. The camera was off for me, and the visuals didn't blow me away. But it doesn't really matter because the narrative and the dialogue is going to be so strong, and the world building is going to be so strong. Because Obsidian never misses with that. They're the best at narratives, in my opinion. They're very consistent. They made the best Fallout game twice. New Vegas and Outer World. And Outer World's not even a Bethesda game. It's not even a Fallout game, and it was the best Fallout game. Besides New Vegas, and so like Obsidian never misses, and this game's gonna be great. Um, yeah, I'm really into it. I'll probably play a mage character. I'm guessing, but we'll see. Yeah, like
It did say the mage was the most challenging character to play
which
as.
is usually the case. It's like that in WoW. It's the most skill based because you're more squishy, I'm sure. But the ones that are really the people that get really good at those classes are really good, right? So it's probably more skill based. But
Right.
I think it is this way, but I hope it's like Outer Worlds where it's like not open world, but like giant open area where it's like it doesn't feel overwhelming, where it's like too much shit going on in the map. Like that's where I get overwhelmed with open world. Like I think Outer Worlds had a perfect pacing to it, perfect pace to it. I don't want like a 70-hour game, that kind of thing. Like I mean, it might be, but I didn't think Outer World was. It was like what 30, 40 hours.
It was 30 hours. This is my second playthrough. I beat it in less than 20 hours. You can, and I did almost all the side. I mean, I knew what I was doing, of course, but I mean, on my second playthrough, I did, pretty much everything in 20 hours.
Yeah.
I was really impressed. So it's not a long game.
Cause I know I criticized Starfield for that, but I think the problem with Starfield was that like the areas themselves were just barren. You were just walking. Where like I want like an open area where like there's things all around where you just stumble into it or whatever, but it's not like overwhelming where like I look on the map, there's 5 million icons and that kind of thing. I don't want Assassin's Creed, the big open world ones. All right, so yeah, Avowed is day one for me. I'm sorry.
I'm probably day one too, unless it gets really bad reviews. I'm probably day one. I really like Obsidian. I think they nailed it out of the park with Outer Worlds, and also with what was that medieval game called that we both loved?
From Obsidian?
Yeah, was that Obsidian? That was Obsidian, right? The murder mystery where you're in medieval times and you're in a religious.
Avowed, yeah. No, I mean no. Oh my God, why am I forgetting it? I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, but you know what I mean. You know the narrative game where you.
Oh my God, why am I forgetting this? I have to look it up now. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm pissed.
But we both loved it. I've never seen Obsidian miss on a big level before, so I doubt they will here either. Especially now that they're giving the game more time to cook. Pentiment, exactly. Pentiment was fucking awesome. So yeah.
They also made Grounded, which is also a good survival. It's a good.
Yeah, Grounded is also supposed to be pretty good. So yeah, I just Obsidian doesn't miss most of the time.
And Pillars of Eternity.
And Pillars of Eternity, they don't miss. Is what I'm trying. I was trying to be like light about it, but they really don't miss. They do everything, and they fucking excel at it. So I'm not surprised. I hope Avowed is awesome.
Yeah, they used to be Bethesda's biggest competitor in the RPG space. Now Microsoft.
Yes, now they're both owned by the same company, which has got to be awkward.
Yes. All right.
It's like running into your old like roommate in a grocery store that you don't get that you ended up bad terms with. It's like, oh hey.
Yeah, so Dory will probably. I'm sure Dory's gonna play it on Game Pass, and I'm gonna get it on Steam. So.
Yep.
All right. Last game.
Last game
of our longest podcast episode so far.
I told you it was gonna be long. Sip's like, I don't want to do 2.5 hours.
I knew it was gonna happen, but I didn't want it to happen. But but I'm having fun halfway through it, so it's fine. All right. No, it's fine. Mafia: The Old Country. That's the final. It was the final announcement of Opening Night Live, which was kind of a lousy show in my opinion. But Mafia: The Old Country is Mafia 4, basically. It takes place in Sicily in the 1900s. I think we talked about it on this podcast that there was a rumor that they're making another Mafia game.
Right. I think we briefly mentioned that.
And it turns out
here it was.
There you go.
Not a lot of info.
Yeah, like I'm curious on the setting. Very like it's cool. It's unique. You don't have a lot of games in the early 1900s like that, especially in Italy. Because usually these games take place in America, Italian Americans and the mafia and all that. So that's unique. But yeah, I guess that makes sense. They go backwards because there's really no Italian mafia nowadays, like widespread. I mean, like I'm not saying there's.
They can't really go forward. Yeah.
Yeah, how do you do a mafia game in 2024? It just becomes GTA, doesn't it? So
right.
Yeah, my only thing about this game is the gameplay. I think the Mafia game's gameplay is not great, and it's very stiff. And I think hopefully this game improves upon that. I'm not really optimistic that they will.
I'm not either, given that it said that the authentic realism and rich storytelling that the critically acclaimed Mafia series is known for. So
Yeah, which they're not known for. They're known for the narrative and the characters and stuff, which is good. I think really good. But not the gameplay. I think a lot of people criticize the gameplay. It plays like GTA, which I think GTA 6. I'm hoping plays better because GTA 5 feels dated. And we'll put this way: Red Dead Redemption 2 came out 2018. The gameplay felt dated to me, like where the fixed aiming for you and all that. Like I hated that. So, you know what I'm talking about, right? Like we play The Last of Us Part 2 when it's like really smooth and it plays fantastic, and then you play like Red Dead Redemption 2. It feels like you're playing in mud, and that's how Mafia feels like it's playing in.
Yeah, I have Mafia remastered, so I mean I'll let you know how that goes. But
yeah, no, it's a great game. The first one especially is the best one. Mafia 3 has one of the greatest stories in a video game, and like it's so underrated. But the game got so, like the story got so ruined by the gameplay and the performance issues and everything like that.
Sure.
That like people don't even realize how good of the storyline is in Mafia 3. It's one of the best storylines, and it's unique because it's not Italians like in like up north. It's like black people in the south. So it's very unique perspective. But they got ruined by gameplay. So this game is going to be make or break by the gameplay. All right, so that's everything. I know it was a long episode. Next week will probably
definitely our longest.
Next week won't be as long because obviously we covered an entire showcase for an entire week. But it was fun. So happy birthday, Dory. Enjoy your rest of your day and rest of your weekend. Have fun tonight with Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
And I will have fun with WoW, so I'm also going to be nerdy. And it was a fun episode. I didn't plan on going this long, but like I figured it would be, but I just, I had to gear up for this because I knew it was going to be a long episode, and I was like, I want to go back to WoW right now because we could have
Gamescom as its own episode. I think Gamescom itself was an hour and 15 or something like that.
Yeah, but like I definitely wanted to do this episode for sure and all that. It's just that because it's tough when you're playing a game and you're like and then like a podcast is coming up in like 15 or 20 minutes and then it's like you stop playing it and you're like,
yep,
damn it. But it
was I was like that with Black Myth this morning. I was like I know I got to do such and such. I got to prepare for the podcast. Got to do this. I'm like,
yeah,
I really want to play Black Myth. I can't right now. It killed me the last 2 nights. I would have been maybe on chapter 3 by now, but I was so exhausted from camp. But I'm excited to get back into it. This next week I do not have work. I have some trainings, but I don't have work per se. So I'll have much wider impressions of Black Myth next week for what we've been playing.
Yeah, unfortunately, I have a full week ahead of me. No days off like last week. But Dory might get ahead of me in Black Myth because I want to put serious hours into WoW this week because the new expansion started and all that. Once I get to the point where I got all the content out of the way and I can wait for the next patch, then I can go back to playing other games. But I will play Black Myth in the future too. Don't get me wrong, but I'm going to prioritize WoW. So WoW is what I'm going to talk about mainly next week. I'm going to use that as the thumbnail. It's going to be the main topic. The main, not the final topic, but the main show.
I think the casting of Frank Stone is coming out soon too.
Yeah, are you going to get that day one?
I am thinking about it. It's looking really impressive.
Yeah, if I don't get it day one, I'm definitely gonna get it when it's on sale on the Halloween.
Yeah,
because October is right around the corner. All right, Dory, have a good night. Happy birthday.
Oh my God, let's end this podcast.
And peace.
Sorry. Bye. It's been fun.
Bye.